Okay, let's go. Happy
Yes,
Friday,
sir.
Andy.
Carlos Domingo, special guest unleashed, first second of the stream. Carlos, all right, guys, happy Friday. Welcome back to the Rollup. Check out the new look, the new logo. It's a little shout out to Brendan for that. Shout out to the people out in Florida. Rob, I'm in Hawaii. You're in Florida. Happy morning. Good morning. Banger stream today. We've got a ton of great guests, and we've just unveiled our new brand. So I put out this entire thread just kind of talking about how we're viewing this market, and really just kind of what the details of this brand is. And, you know, it goes from 119 days ago, we made a leap to lead our industry into streaming. Why we did this, you know, this gravity shift of podcasting to streaming, the advantages of streaming, you know, real-time content, more fun, shorter time commitment, closer to the audience, all competing for this kind of attention. Then we saw clips. We saw these really get, you know, hot, get picked up. A lot of people wanted to do clips. And then we got into kind of where we want to go next. We got two-way interactions, these new shows. Shout out to our new shows.
Oh, yeah.
Tokenization show with Polygon, stablecoin show with Frax, AI show with Near. And we got into the next 100 days, what we're trying to do, and how this is just such a fast industry that just keeps moving. And yeah, I mean, guys, we're stoked on this. It's going to be a fun couple of months at the Rollup coming up.
I'll tell you what I'm most excited about with respect to these new shows, and that is speaking to those beyond the crypto Twitter echo chamber. You know, we were going back and forth a little bit on the announcement and how we wanted to position this and frame this. And we positioned it, I think, accurately as the world's biggest categories. These are emerging technologies. These are finance and technological innovations that span countries, continents, industries. And we can no longer just refer to this as our industry or our sector or category. This is about the most innovative things that are happening in multiple industries and really some of the most emergent and impactful technologies that are happening in the world. That means that we're going to be talking to some of the most important people and influential people in the world. And that's what I'm really, really excited about.
Yeah, our boy Ilya just quote tweeted, "Don't miss the Rollup Co. scaling to AI." That's going to be an awesome show. We're on the road to Jensen Huang. I'm telling you right now, if Jensen Huang gets wind of this, we are coming for you, man. We are coming straight for you. Jensen Huang is coming on the Rollup at some point very, very soon. If you're seeing this, Jensen Huang, if you're reading this, Jensen Huang, he's coming on. We're going to get some awesome AI guests on that show. And I think we're gunning for Larry Fink on tokenization side of things and that type of guest in these niche topics. Dude, what a brand.
Exactly.
Dude, the brand was getting kind of stale. The new kind of sex appeal look to it, man, it just looks sick.
I like the chrome. Shout out the new designer that we have working at the Rollup. There's a whole team behind the scenes. I mean, we've scaled not just operationally, but the entire team. I think we've added almost doubled our size. And a lot of these are sort of part-time, but, you know, onboarding now. And a lot of them have proven to be super, super helpful. And we couldn't do it without them. So
yeah, I mean, I think in my post, dude, I put like,
did you put everyone?
Put like Andy, Rob, Alex, Zach, Nero, Leo, Justin, Eliona, Maria, 𝘱𝑒𝑪𝑖𝑙, Marcelo. I missed Brendan and maybe Nara. So I mean, yeah, teams up. I mean, dude, don't even talk to me about the expense column.
Man, I saw a clip.
The CapEx.
I saw a clip of the Replit CEO talking about like what is not commoditizable in the era of AI. And it's entrepreneurship. And I think, you know, these are some of the problems that we face on a day-to-day basis. Like, cooking, doubling the team size. And then it's like, oh, where's the hole in the ship? CapEx is growing quite a bit. And
you listened to that voice memo last night? I was cruising.
You were thinking the waves
I was
were
elevated.
Yeah. And such is the nature of being an entrepreneur, right? These are the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and we balance. And we try to make sure that we run the most virtuous company that we can. And as a result, everything is in order, balanced, harmonious.
Congrats on the new brand, dude.
Congrats. It's a team effort.
And
Congrats to
congrats on
everyone
getting paid. I feel like our announcement was like, yeah, these guys are getting paid. Cool. But I mean, we have a lot of work to do, honestly, with these shows. Like, I think a big part of what we're trying to accomplish here is like really get closer to the audience. So, like, we, in that tweet I wrote about two-way interactions, that's going to be a technical lift. We really just want to figure out how we go from, go from basically this kind of like one-way show to like this more indicative or like this more interactive two-way interaction. So hopefully some of that technical lift isn't too long and strenuous. But I think even in the immediate term, it's just going to be a better looking brand, more brand appeal, better visual identity, and just generally more locked in. So let's talk about the amazing lineup that we have today. We've got John Wu, the founder of 40IQ. John is a interesting fella. I spoke to him on the first time in Austria when I was there this year. I was actually just on the phone with him, and we were speaking about kind of just the general, a lot of the kind of media marketing shenanigans that have been going on. And so John Wu runs 40IQ, which is a really cool founder-led brand, and I think we can talk to him about that. Really just kind of like pushing on the idea of founder ghostwriting, go-to-market, brand storytelling. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty bullish. Like, it's like they have a really good brand and a good company, and they help a lot of these early stage founders. So I'm stoked on that, Rob. And then we got a couple others as well.
Oh yeah. Stoked lineup as always. Pretty excited. Tons to talk about. So we are going to go through it. And I think there's plenty to talk about. Another thing that I'm excited about is some of the institutional data that we can hear from the guys later on. We may have a special guest that we dropped a little bit too early in the show due to the headlines, but we're going to keep that a secret for the rest of the show. But we also have Adam, who is confirmed from RWA.XYZ. He's been sending us a ton of really great data. Anyone can check out RWA XYZ. They were actually included in our announcement this morning because we're going to start to include a lot more of their data on the show. We're going to build out these overlays, tokenization, stream with Polygon, money moves fast. It's going to showcase a lot of the data, and a lot of that is going to come from RWA.XYZ. So we're excited about all of our data partnerships, as well as our show sponsors. So shout out to those guys.
Polygon, shout out to Frax, shout out to Near, and some other ones that we're kind of cooking up. We've got quite a bit in the tank for you guys. We got John Wu in the back. We're gonna get him up. John, welcome to the show. Congrats on all your success with 40IQ. Thank you for joining us last minute, sir.
Yo, appreciate it, guys. Good to see you, Robbie. Good to see you.
Man, I was telling the story. Like, I was in Austria in January this year. We first connected. I was in this kind of like high tension state, and I mean, you just had a lot of really good things to say and stuff to bring to my attention, and also just kind of chat on. So just appreciate your time today,
dude. Of course, excited to be here on such a momentous day for the Rollup.
Oh, appreciate that, man. It's been a lot of fun, and we're accelerating. And I am glad that you are here to be part of that acceleration. First thing I wanted to ask you about was 40IQ is such a phenomenal and ironic name. It just right off the bat, it captures you. So how did that come to be? How did you think and invent 40IQ?
Man, it's so funny because like when I came up with the name, obviously everyone knows it comes from the midwit meme. And I was just thinking about all the times that I've been a midwit in my life. And it's just like, just overthinking, right? And like, there's actually this idea. Have you guys ever heard of this idea of like magical thinking?
Yeah.
The magical thinking. Basically, magical thinking is this idea that if you think hard enough about something that like your reality will change. And like, it's obviously not the way the world works, but I think like, especially if you're smart, like you kind of just are like, oh, well, I've always been praised for my brain, or I got hired for my brain. And so my brain's so powerful that I can shift the world around me. And just like in 99% of cases, that's not true. So I actually wrote a manifesto that I never published, but you guys are making me think I need to do it, which is just like the Tao of 40IQ, like the way to just be, almost thoughtlessly in action. Mm-hmm. I went pretty deep on the Bhagavad Gita a little while ago. It's this Hindu text epic poem. And it's basically just like, how do you do things effortlessly And that doesn't mean be effortless. That doesn't mean do nothing. That means like, how do you do stuff without overthinking it? And so I've been trying to let that guide my life. And man, I have so many friends who are effortless in action and really successful, and they don't overthink things. I have also friends who are, just caught in magical thinking, and just like, if I just think hard enough, like my life will improve. So that's what 40 IQ is about. It started because I realized that founders have such amazing stories, and if they could just let themselves tell it without overthinking it, just be yourself, which is the hardest thing in the world, right? To have just the courage to just exist. I mean, they would just crush. And yeah, that was it.
Reminds me of the flow state, right? And you just get into it.
Exactly. How do you not overthink it? Exactly.
Right. And so 40 IQ is not quite a VC firm in the traditional sense. You guys are a little bit more boutique-y, right? So, helping founders tell their stories. How do you do this, and kind of help share your philosophy of just letting founders kind of effortlessly do their thing? Are there tactics? Generally, how have you seen? Maybe you can share some success cases with us.
Yeah, the initial idea behind 40 IQ was actually just a very simple format that a lot of people use. And by the way, I encourage you, if you're listening and you work for a company out there, go try this with your founder. Or if you're a founder, go try this with your team. We should just sit there and just talk, just ramble, just talk about what's on your mind. Every time when I edit people's writing, and one of my favorite things in the world is editing people's writing, if something's confusing to me, I always ask the person, what are you trying to say here? And inevitably, they then say what they're meaning to say much more eloquently than they did when they wrote it. So I'm like, okay, why is there a delta between what's going on in your head and what you have down on paper? Oh, well, I'm not supposed to just say that. I'm not supposed to like write in this way that's like too colloquial. And a lot of our job is just to challenge founders to be like, why not? Why can't you just say that? Because like, man, we are in the slop era. You guys know this. Everything's being generated right now. Everything's converging on 100 IQ. Like even the way the models are trained it's almost definitionally 100 IQ. It's like the plurality majority way of thinking about things. And so your own vibe and like your unique take on the world is the most important thing. And so we extract that from the interview. We draft content for founders. That's the ghostwriting side of the business. But we've evolved. We've become much more than that. We're a more comprehensive comms agency now. And we've been focusing a lot more on announcements recently. And announcements like another good example of what my mission is in crypto over the course of the next months and years is like, man, there's so much competence out there outside the crypto world. We're stuck in our little bubble of like marketers, marketing, and like, the conference circuit. And like, we just think this is all the world is. And it's not, man. Like, having been a generalist now for a while and having invested in companies that are outside crypto, including Note, which is this really sick nicotine company, if you haven't heard of. I just met with the founder this morning.
I need some of that.
Dude, I will ship you some. They're amazing companies started by these two guys, Alex and Eric, out of Sweden. They were ex-𝘗𝘗𝘗𝘗. Like,
of course, Swedish.
They sent me the Swedish House Mafia show last night. It was super, super fun. But like, man, they're doing amazing things around consumer awareness and trialing and sampling and retail and point of sale that, it's not always one-to-one with crypto, but there's just so much we can learn from outside of our industry. So, announcements is a really good example of that. We published an open playbook, that on a thread that went viral a couple of weeks ago, which is just like, just follow this checklist, and just, this is how you should execute your announcement. Get a project manager, execute it perfectly. I want to open source like best practice from around, go to market, not just in crypto, but outside of it, and just be like, look, I want to be the best repository for open knowledge that there could possibly be around go to market. And then if you still need help with that, like, you should call us and we can work together. But man, we just shouldn't be in the dark ages compared to every other industry on earth in terms of how to do the basics.
Totally agree. I mean, that's kind of how we feel about this whole stream concept. It's like, all right, we're just going to go start streaming daily with really high quality, get clips going, get it going in other markets, and just try. And like we just got to catch up here. Like, it's been a process of doing that because of the incentives have been, the incentives have allowed mediocrity in the industry for a while, which is like a result of like probably just overinvestment or just ZERP in the 2020 era. But I think we're really getting into like the practical era, I'm calling it, for the tech, and it really feels like it's like the grown-up era for everything else in the industry. So I'm glad that you bring that up, and I'm sure your process has changed as well over like the last couple of years, even just seeing kind of what works, right? Because you get all these different narrative and metas and strategies, but really it just moves really quickly in the space. In my post today, it was like, okay, we started streaming about 4 months ago. Today, there's probably 12 crypto streams.
Yep.
You know, clipping, we started really aggressively, you know, right after. Now clipping is like, not that we started this whole thing, but like these things have a shelf life and you just got to keep innovating. And so, you know, I feel like that's probably a big part of your business too.
I mean, your edge just gets eroded so fast, like in everything, right? But I think in 2025, like things are moving so rapidly. There's access to global talent. Like, man, I even think about the boomers. It's like they had no competition. Like the world was literally bombed out. There was no competition. Like people were like literally in poverty in Asia, just trying to survive. And like now there's global competition. It's like you have to constantly maintain your edge. And so I think the only way to maintain that edge is to have a great team and a great culture. And like, whatever you have today, man, you better iterate it tomorrow because it's going away.
Yeah,
John,
completely
does a really good job now on socials with capitalizing on a unique edge. Take, you know, really any meta, and they change so fast, but take like prediction markets as kind of held up as of late. Like who in the prediction market space these days is really just been able to find some place unique in which they can tell their story. Anyone stick out?
I mean, honestly, one of the guys that like I admire so much is John Wang. Everyone knows him, obviously. He's at 𝘗𝘯𝘵 now. And like, I saw him posting about prediction markets and I'm like, man, he's about to make a big announcement. I don't know what it is, but like nobody talks that much about one thing without having something up their sleeve. And like, lo and behold. But I think he's one of the few, like him, 𝘗𝘗𝘏, some of the other like smart traders. Like there's some of the only people who are able to put out high engaging long form content right now. Because look, I made my bones in 2021 writing like Twitter explainers. Like back in my day, you know, it was like there just wasn't that much competition. It's like if you were a smart person and you were willing to spend 3 or 4 hours writing about something, like nobody else had the attention to do that. And on the flip side, there was more than enough attention span to consume that level of content because the alpha was in the technical. It was technical alpha. It was if I understand the protocol better than someone else, then I know how to play it. I know how to kind of play the yield, etc. It's just not the case anymore, right? And like people don't really have the attention span for that. And so every time I see someone writing long form that engages, I'm like, they have to have some kind of weird secret sauce because even my long form doesn't really engage anymore. I don't know if it's because I've lost my edge, but I mean, John Wang is just an all-time GOAT. Yeah, he's one of the best.
Yeah. I don't mean to clip farm you too hard here, but like when you're looking at founders, is there any specific moment in past history where there was a founder who did a marketing stunt or a marketing tactic, either that was part of 40 IQ's like brand and strategy and like your client, or just that you witnessed that was like an astounding move and that you were like, wow, there is a lot of like, that was just something that was extremely well done, very well executed, and we have, you know, something to learn from that. Is there anything that you can draw on in the last year or maybe even 2 years?
You know, one thing that's like controversial, and I don't know if it worked for them, but was like the story rage bait. It seemed to work. It seemed to kind of work. Like, and that
the
was
Barachain, like build something real thing.
That was all engineered. As I'm sure you know, like, dude, anytime you see that, like, if I were to say one thing to founders out there, like, there's no such thing as organic, guys. There's no such thing as organic. Like you're putting something out there and you're like expecting it to go viral. Like maybe it'll happen, but like I pretty much tweet as like, you know, part-time job. And I'm like, I don't even go viral that often. I've probably gotten over 1,000 likes. I've only done it a couple times in the last month, maybe like 3 or 4 times. And I'm thinking about this all the time. I'm thinking about it all the time. So most of the time when you see some narrative, some meta, it's not organic. Like people are working really hard on it. So I thought Story actually did a kind of weirdly good job kind of setting that like me against you. Again, did it work for them? I mean, it felt like it worked for the token for a while. You know, I think that one kind of weirdly stands out for me. Not, again, the attention it got was well crafted and well engineered. Forgetting whether it was rage bait, forgetting whether you agree with it or not. Like every time I see good execution, you can just tell that it's good execution. Sometimes you see founders put stuff out there and you're like, man, you should be getting a lot of attention. You have great tech. You have a great story. Maybe you're compelling as a person, but you just had poor execution on the back end. That's what you hate to see. You know, it's like, that's what I wish I didn't see out of crypto. And like, that's why anytime I see founders get really salty about somebody else who's like clearly less talented than them, worse tech, blah, 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 getting more attention. And they're like, everything's such a scam. This is blah, blah, blah. Dude, the world is still a meritocracy. It just might not be a meritocracy around the things that you care about. Like the smartest person doesn't always win. The best technology doesn't always win. Sometimes you got to get good at some of the other stuff, you know?
John, is there a meta right now in founder-led marketing that is working better than others? in today's crypto market, we're in a very like show me the money market. Like show me the revenue, show me the buyback, show me the adoption, show me the institutional sales, show me that you're actually just doing something and not just literally a, you know, worthless kind of token, if you will, to be very blunt. What is like from the founder-led comms, you know, maybe it's a better question if we ask, like, let's say you're somewhat in like the pre-revenue, pre-product kind of like, you know, segment. Is there some kind of founder-led marketing that's working? Or if you're in a more advanced segment, is there a founder-led marketing strategy that's working? Like just generally, like what are you seeing for the founders out there that want to have a quick couple tips to improve their marketing that's working today? Is it a certain medium? Is it a certain platform? Is it a certain thought process? What do our founders need to know for
Okay, here's a tip
today?
that's gonna annoy a lot of people because it doesn't, it's like it doesn't make for a good tweet. But it's like, if you look at the way the algorithm works, right? The way the algorithm works is it basically assigns every single person to a community. So it's basically a high dimensional vector space. Like technical founders will probably know more about this than me if you read the GitHub. But basically it assigns like a vector to like the shape of your account based on the people who like your account. And so depending on who likes your account, that's like the shape of this like very high dimensional vector. And then based on your affinity between your vector and a community, that's like basically which community you get assigned to. And the way that you get distribution within the community is if the pillars within that community, the people who hold it up, right? The Andys and Robbies of the world and crypto, whatever, you know, it's like whatever community pillars, they engage with your content. And so it's really important to get the like pillars of the community to engage. Now, how can you do that, right? A lot of people want the like easy, like I'm behind my laptop and I can just like click some buttons to do it. And here's my like kind of like difficult take is like, no, I think you should go have dinner with like every single one of those people. And so like, I kind of think my best tip for you is like, once you create that affinity circle of just like, here are the 10 people I know are really important for my protocol, make that list. First of all, the number of founders who have that list is like 0 as far as I can tell. Sometimes I'll work with founders and I'll be like, do you have your investors like on a Telegram? And they're like, no, should I? And I'm like, that's insane to me. But like, yes, you should have that. You should have the people that you want to retweet you. You should be, I would say you should be militantly making friends, right? And not like in an annoying way, but like hang out with the people who like you, you know, live your life, like have fun. If there's somebody that you enjoy meeting at a conference, be friends with them, invite them to dinner. But like, if you create close personal affinity with that person's far more likely to engage with you on the internet. It sounds so obvious. And so kind of one of my best tips is like, if you go to a conference and you're not hosting a dinner with some of your friends, I'm like, you got to get on that. Not only is it just fun, but like you're going to support each other. You're going to get in a group at the end of the day. And that plays out on the algorithm. That's not just like a vibes thing. Like if you read the algorithm, that's the way it works. So go out there and militantly make friends.
It's actually important to touch grass and do it collectively with people. Like we've said this before, like handshakes are so rare. To actually face-to-face meeting people is so rare in this space because everyone is terminally online. And so that is a level, a step function if everyone else is on the playing field just being online.
And you have to become uncancelable. Dude, I've never been mean to someone on the internet that I've met before. I mean, I try really hard not to be mean on the internet. Everyone should probably try not to be mean on the internet.
Totally agree.
Like, really, you're going to go dunk on someone that you had a drink? Like someone kind of dunked on me the other day that I've had a cocktail with. And I DM'd him and I was like, bro, what's going on? Like we had a drink.
Dude,
like,
yeah.
What's happening here? Like that was so like in violation of my expectation.
I mean, people will be mean on socials and then you get in front of them in real life and it's like, it's a completely different world. So, but I think that's a really good tip though. It's like I've experienced this. Like you just shake the hand, talk for a bit in person, and then, you can call in favors. Like even on today's announcement, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like I texted some of the most influential people in crypto media before, and I was like, hey, like, this is what I'm doing. Just like, check it out if you're interested. And lo and behold, I got Yano commenting on, I got the Delphi CEO engaging it. We got Farouk coming on later. It's just kind of like a thing, but without that, like actual, that first step of getting in person, then I think you're right. Now I'm curious what you think about this streaming clip kind of video meta that we're seeing from like the attention spans deteriorating across the board in media, across all content vectors, the fight for your attention being more aggressive than ever, causing, higher thumbnail extravaganzas and try to get better CTRs and, all these things. Like from the pure media perspective, what is your take on this evolution of, I suppose, short form media, lower attention spans, and fighting for attention more than ever in like a noisier, crowded content environment, just generally online, as it relates to your media strategy, as it relates to the advice that you would give somebody who's trying to implement a media strategy?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. I spent a lot of time with like UGC folks, short form video agencies. And like, I think now is actually one of the best times in the universe to be creative again. And that's basically because these algorithms have made audience targeting a thing of the past. It used to be like data nerds won, because if you just got the audience targeting right, you could send the message sniper shot into that person. Bro, not how it works anymore. Meta is like, let us build the guided missile, okay? You just have to give us the right payload and we'll get it delivered. And so weirdly, the power has come back to the creative, which is, can you create the best payload? And then Meta will guide the missile to where it needs to go. And so streaming is really interesting, because the bet on streaming is we're going to just pump volume for hours and hours and hours. And like, it's power law, right? So one of these clips, I'm going to get a spicy comment and like, that's going to go viral and that's going to make all the hours worth it. I have like, we're so early in this game. Like that may be the case. TBPN obviously like, took the beach early. You guys took the beach early. I really don't have a take on whether it'll work because it's so early. But the other argument I could make is like, okay, you should spend hours and hours and hours in the writer's room. You should spend hours and hours and hours just crafting the perfect like video, the perfect thing for your audience that's like perfectly entertaining for them, and pour all your production dollars and all your thought process purely into the creative. And then like, yeah, you're taking way fewer shots on goal, but like the level of the creative is so much higher. So I think just two totally different approaches. I don't think anyone's really doing a good job of the latter in crypto. And maybe it's just because people don't hang out on short form, media, or like maybe the highest LTV customers out there are like your whale traders and they're on CT and they're watching these streams. So like this might still be just where they live and that might be the most valuable thing. But I would say for like consumer products, like this would like never work for Note. Like it would just never work. No, it would just never ever work. Like I would never ask these guys to sponsor a TBPN or like a live stream show, because like they need to own their voice and they need to own the UGC and they need to have like fantastic creative that really, really speaks to the consumer. So, I think crypto is just a weird little beast, and I think the jury's still out, but I think, the approach could still very much work. Like some of these clips do go viral. You guys get spicy takes out of people like.
Yeah, and it's kind of balancing that with the insightfulness of the content as well. I've kind of thought of it as like you got this really short form stuff, and then like, I think for us, it's like, okay, now we go do these, do podcasts in person with people, and we do like an hour and a half long pod.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like go super short form, 90-second, max virality, max clickbaitiness, and then go super long form, show the depth. And then that barbell, I think, is golden. So it's like, you're saying like, as a founder, okay, or as a media brand, super short form clips, video streams, okay, whatever. And then maybe do some really good long form written stuff, because written stuff is not over. It's not like it's dead. ChatGPT didn't kill the author. It killed people's attention span to read a lot, but like, it's not going to kill somebody who actually people want to hear from. And so I think this like barbell is probably a good way to think about it for a lot of brands, like very, very good short form strategy and very, very good long form strategy. I don't know where the medium form, fit really is. And like, think about a 45-minute podcast, or like doing multiple kind of medium-sized articles a week, or, like kind of like, how does that fit? I don't know.
I think you're right. The way I think about it is like video is for affinity. It's like, dude, I see your face, you create that parasocial relationship. And then the written and the long form is for education, right? So it's like, you kind of need a mix of both. But like, I don't think you can really get away from not having the affinity too. People want to buy people. They want to see your face. And the more cringe you can get, the more real you are as a human, the more differentiated. Because like, guys, everyone's going to do slob content from here to infinity. So if you can LLM generate the output, it's not worth publishing. Just don't do it. If you are even touching an LLM to generate the output, I would just say don't publish it. Just literally don't publish it, because it's like, what's the point? It's filler. It's going to get skipped over. It's like really, really easy to tell. So be yourself, be kooky, be real, be authentic, or have some kind of really differentiated education about your technology. But like, you're right. I think this in between of like, we'll do a weekly technical blog post or something. I'm like, look, I have no evidence against this, but I'm like, I'm not reading that stuff.
Yeah.
It worked early on, but like you said, the edge deteriorated. And a lot of people got away with that because they were early. But now that more competition has came into the space, it's gotten crowded, and you just have to level up your game and sort of stick out. And I'm curious, just from like this perspective, because we often get into this, and this is not the right way to think about it, but it is like almost the most intrusive thought, which is this quality quantity dynamic. And so what you're saying about fewer shots on goal leads me to think like, okay, make sure that what you are putting on goal is super high quality. But then you get into the other end, it's like, well, how important is volume when these algorithms are based on visibility, and they're going to feed you that, they're going to do the guided missile. You just got to arm the payload. Where do you draw the line? How is it both sides of the barbell? How do you, quantity and quality, I just know are not the right way to think about it. So what do you think is the right way?
No, I actually don't think that's the wrong way to think about it. And that's why I'm like, I don't know, jury's still out as to like TBPN versus the live stream, your guys roll up versus like being, ideally you have both. If you could put out a high volume of high quality creative, like, and that's what like all the brands are doing is just like, we're going to pump a ton of high quality creative briefs through UGC, and like something's going to hit, and then we double down with paid, right? This thing's starting to take off organically. Let's pump into it because this is a winner. You have to identify your winners though. Like I think if you're doing volume and you're not learning what your winning patterns are, that's where you're in a really, really tough spot, right? And so like you should be doing volume on Twitter, but if you're doing volume on Twitter and you're not learning anything, that's such a tough place. Like you have to figure out what's the format, what's the tone, what's the storytelling angle, and like that's it. It's a learning tool.
Right. Yeah. You're winning, but you don't know why, so it's not replicatable, and you're just going to continue to guess.
Doubling down on the winning formats is like that's one of the biggest things, right? And it's like I think that's why having a really iterative and divergent creative team, where it's just like if you could put out 10 different types of creative briefs and like lots of different types of ad, like you're gonna learn some stuff. You're gonna learn what hits, what type of creator like works for you. Yeah, no easy answers here. Like I don't want to pretend I'm an expert. I just want to. I'm just trying to get as close to the edge as humanly possible, and I think that's all that anyone can promise you today, because it's literally day by day. Like every day it changes.
It does. It does. John, man, I know you're slammed. Thank you for your time and appreciate you joining us today. It's been a really fun conversation. We don't really have these types of conversations too often with regards to marketing and branding and stuff, but today it was pretty present, and it was an important one just based on the entire setup. And yeah, I mean, I think you're totally right. It's still early in this setup. Like we saw TBPN jump on maybe like 8 months ago or so. Took us about a month and a half to really realize like the caliber of what they were doing, and like understanding, okay, how possible is this for us at scale as well? Obviously, knowing that we're not, in the same room. Then you look around at kind of like what else is happening in the crypto space, and you realize like, A, no one else is doing this. B, there's a lot of podcast competition, and C, it's like, where's our real like long-term edge here? Yeah. And so we just decided to make a full brand pivot. We had a team of 10. It was agile enough, make the full move, and I think now, we kind of thought about monetization. It was hard to kind of figure out how exactly it was going to work. We kind of returned to this house of brands model as sub brands within the Rollup, niche shows weekly. Advertising is now starting to happen as the clips roll. Still figuring out a lot of stuff, man. There's a lot of multi-platform shorts that is still a process. Paid media, influencers. How much do we want to? So it's a whole thing. But yeah, man, I appreciate you kind of sharing some wisdom.
You guys are fighting the good fight, man. You're on the edge. You're definitely on the edge. You got to be in the arena to like see what works.
There you go. You coming on, man. It feels quite meta talking about media as a media company. Oftentimes we're talking about something that's not. It's crypto or blockchain or something else. And yeah, this feels like another dimension up.
Yeah, the playbooks are getting thrown out. You guys are fighting the good fight for sure. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate
you, John. Have a good weekend, man. Be easy. Yeah. All right, Rob. Well, that was pretty good, man. I do wonder how the tides will turn. This streaming stuff is obviously new and it's hot. It's fun. The question is about for me, it's more about like how sustainable is it to be streaming all the time for such long periods of time. That's going to be a question to answer. And just like, what's the end game? Like I realistically think that like the top streams that are like doing a similar format like this will get bought out by major companies. Maybe not like massive ones, there'll be different levels of scale, but like, dude, it's pretty obvious to me that like TBPN could get bought by like a massive, like a CNBC, stuff like that.
Crazy dynamic that's happening is that look at Hyperliquid and NASDAQ. And there was a fantastic post that put this into perspective. I'll try to find it, but it's basically that these companies are doing more revenue at such a more efficient scale. It was something like I'll try to.
Well,
find
they
it here.
did more. Hyperliquid did more revenue or profit than Nasdaq in one of the
Yes.
one of the last weeks.
It was
think.
Hyperliquid's net income is 1.2 billion, surpasses Nasdaq 2024 net income of 1.13 billion.
Yep.
With a workforce 832 times smaller.
Wow.
That's such a mind fuck, honestly, that it's hard to say.
Yeah, it is.
The same scale of revenue at 832 times smaller. And the reflection of this in media is what you're talking about. It's companies like ours and others being bought out by bigger companies that have more resources but are not able to keep up, even though their teams are 400 to 500 times bigger.
Yeah,
right?
I know. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts.
We've got a team of 10. You can think there are media companies out there that have teams of 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000, yet are not able to reach the same levels of distribution. Look at podcasts and how they were able to innovate traditional, like mainstream media, legacy media.
100%. Dude, I mean, crypto companies are some of the most insane,
Efficient.
You can have these lean, efficient machines, and it's really impressive. So that's the beauty of this online economy as well. So, alrighty, guys, we've got the Starkware ecosystem team in the back ready to come on. We'll throw them up. Great to see you guys. Thank you for joining, and welcome to the stream. Happy Friday.
What's up? How's it going?
Hey, welcome. Yeah, I think we are here to talk about StarkTember. StarkTember.
Yeah.
First of all, how are you guys doing? Was it a good week, bad week? How are we feeling? Yeah.
Yeah, a Friday night over here in Europe. So this is how we spend our Friday nights.
True warrior. I know the feeling. Maybe we can just do a quick intro, guys. It's your first time on the show. I've seen some of your content, Victor, on Twitter and in Telegram as well. And just we'd love to get a quick intro about yourselves, what you guys do at Starkware, and then yeah, we can get right into it.
Yep. So yeah, I'm Victor, ecosystem team at Starkware. I've been at Starkware for about almost 2 years now, and before I was just in a lab called 𝘗𝘓𝘓 in the Starkware ecosystem, and then before that I was doing volunteering at ETHCC. So that's actually how I got into the whole crypto space, was just volunteering at ETHCC. And then yeah, first ecosystem I was truly in was the Starknet one, and I'm still in the Starknet ecosystem, and I'm loving it.
Awesome.
Very cool. I saw Ellie had a pretty funny tweet today, congratulating Extended on 50 million in TVL. He said Hyperliquid.
Did he really? At the bottom.
We're almost there. We're on our way. And so maybe you guys have had some interactions there. Overall, like there is a lot of growth, all kidding aside. So what is StarkTember, and how do you anticipate this will continue to fuel the growth that you've seen in the ecosystem so far? Very cool. And is there incentives at play? Like, what are some of the projects that are involved, and generally, like, can you share a little bit more details about just how people can get involved and what they can expect from some of the incentives in StarkTember?
Absolutely. I mean, there's incentives across the whole initiative. So on one hand, let's start with builders, we have two options. We have like an on-site hackathon or sprint in India, and then we have the online sprint where people are just encouraged to build apps and ship them to mainnet. And then we have on the user side, we have various incentives across the different apps like gaming, DeFi, where either yield is boosted or you can win something if you're part of a guild and that guild wins. It's very versatile. We have, I don't even know off the top of my head, Victor, maybe you know more about like numbers of prizes and such, but it depends completely on the app, and it's welcome for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so we put around 1 million STRK like as a budget, and the goal was to give back to the community. And so we focused on 3 campaigns. We focused on what Marika just said, on the builders, like the hackathons. We have a builder house in Pune in India. Then we have like an online hackathon. So that's number 1 of the StarkTember campaign. Number 2 is the most exciting aspect of the campaign, which is everything that is user focused. So we have a bunch of like ecosystem applications ranging from DeFi to gaming, and basically we work with them to create competitions such as like we have apps from like Trove, which is a yield aggregator, but we also have like games such as Art Piece and also Loot Survivor. But basically we work on contests and people can earn rewards by participating in those contests. So that's second part of StarkTember. And then the third part is the meme part / content part / people can earn rewards, like earn Stark token by creating memes, by participating in the bounties. So the overarching motivation is to give back to the community and to kick off, it's not back to school, it's back to the trenches, like kick off the year or like the school year. Because we also have more exciting stuff coming up after StarkTember, but we can also talk about that later. But yeah, that's the overarching view of what this campaign is.
Nice. Very nice. I'm curious how you guys are reacting to the overall result of Extended's launch so far on the perp side of things. And like, if I go on perpetualpulse.xyz, which is a great website, it kind of shows you the different volumes of perps exchanges. It shows you their OI, it shows you their revenues, and it's just kind of like a Notion board that somebody created. And Extended has been on there quite a bit. So it looks like in the last 24 hours, $153 million of volume, which is top, I guess, probably like top 15-ish, maybe top 12. So pretty damn good, which if you're doing $153 million of volume, 24-hour period, you're making a significant amount of fees. So definitely a sustainable app there. How are you guys feeling about the effect that it's having on the Starknet's load, on how is the chain handling it? How's the entire kind of process been from your perspective?
I think it's amazing. Like ever since their migration to Starknet to mainnet, the fact that also the network can handle this load, the fact that it's an on-chain perps DEX, the fact that it runs on Cairo smart contracts, like this is just, it's beautiful, and it's a proof that the tech is truly there to work, and that scaling with Starks and scaling with validity proofs like truly is the way. If you want to have this kind of DeFi applications. So in general, it's and also what you said, Rob, in the beginning, like it's they just surpassed their 50 million TVL goal earlier today. Like their #1 DeFi app right now on Starknet. So ever since their launch or migration to mainnet, they've just been killing it. The team is super serious, like super professional. Also Revolut, by the way. So yeah, I mean, in general, it's it's a killer app for Starknet.
Yeah. It seems like it. Do you feel like there's a path for this kind of singular perps exchange to become like the app for Starknet, like it just becomes like it almost just encapsulates the entire chain, or do you see like they're actually being other kind of apps that are a part of StarkTember really kind of like getting as much traction? Because like all I'm saying here is that this app has gotten a lot of traction, and it's really going to kind of like lead Starknet's success from here into like a different category of like actually kind of competing with some of the larger perp dexes, the hyperliquids, the lighters, which will put StarkNet on the map in a big way. How do you feel about the other ecosystem apps in StarkTember? What other apps are being highlighted? I'm just curious, like, what's going on there.
Yeah, I can say a bit about DeFi and 𝘱𝑑𝘗𝑒𝑓𝑎X on the gaming side, because 𝘱𝑑𝘗𝑒𝑓𝑎X is a big gaming nerd, so she knows a lot about what's up on gaming. On the DeFi aspect, so we have extended as part of the StarkTember campaign. So we have a competition live with them. There's also 𝘗𝑑𝘗𝑒𝑚, which is a yield aggregator. They've also had a record in TVL, right? So the StarkTember campaign, it's rewarding users, but it's also bringing a lot of value to the actual apps and the teams who have a business behind those DeFi applications. So we're also rewarding those teams, and it's just beautiful how it's like everyone's playing this like it's playing along, and it's having just a good time, because you also see it in the culture and the memes. You also see it on Twitter online. And how I see extended playing on StarkNet now, just to finish off on the DeFi aspect. So it has the majority of it's number one in terms of TVL. And what's also beautiful with extended is that they have an API. So you can build with extended your own DeFi app on StarkNet. So you can tap into those perps contracts, right? For instance, you don't have to build your own 𝘱 perps contracts. You can just tap into that API and maybe build like a delta neutral vault or something like that. And yeah, I mean, there's an API, so people can definitely build based on that, like that base architecture that extended offers.
Yeah, very cool. And maybe we can hear a bit about the other apps in the StarkTember campaign, and kind of what you guys are looking to achieve there, through the campaign and then after.
Absolutely. I mean, from the gaming perspective, we definitely also have some pretty cool stuff. Obviously, volume-wise, it doesn't quite reach extended, but maybe one day, we don't know. But for now, we have the cool thing is about the games, especially, is it's very versatile. So, for example, we have one game that's called 𝘁𝑑𝘵𝑎𝑟𝑒𝑛A, and they are the first fully on-chain game that is actually partnering with a real-world, I don't know if you guys know this, but AMMA, like it's an armored MMA league, and they've partnered with them, and they've like reskinned their game and turned it into they've turned the 𝘁𝑑𝘵𝑒𝑟𝑡s into the fighters and such. So we have like games that are connecting to real world things, and then we also have games like, for example, Loot Survivor, who is launching very soon, which is like a dungeon crawler, and the team behind it has shipped many different things that aren't necessarily games, but more like frameworks. For example, like spinning up your own dungeons with the format of Loot Survivor and being able to plug in your own like design and brand and whatever it is. I think one of the like wins that we have in regard to gaming is also the whole like dojo stack and cartridge behind it all. It's making building on-chain games possible in that sense. And nowadays you do get a lot of games that are more Web 2.5, and on StarkNet we do follow a very true fully on-chain gaming narrative. We're still early. Teams are shipping like crazy, and they're also building like crazy, so we have yet to see. But I mean, I may be biased, but I'm very bullish.
I have a question on generally how you're approaching the ecosystem, because a lot of L1s, L2s have started to they've started to try to pick winners, right? And kind of consolidate a lot of their resources around just a hand-selected few projects. And oftentimes that means that liquidity isn't spread out across different projects, and then they also consolidate their marketing resources and just continue to hammer a few projects and try to funnel all of the new acquisitions into the ecosystem into just kind of these cherry-picked apps. This is maybe a little bit less flourishing of the entire ecosystem, but it does center around just a few apps, and it could make the chance of success for those few quite a bit higher. So when you're thinking about picking winners, and again, you see the success of maybe one app, do you try to kind of focus on that one and double down, or how do you balance new apps coming into the ecosystem and try to maintain neutrality, but also make sure that the winners continue to flourish?
Yeah. So as an ecosystem team, if you send us a message on Telegram and you ask for help, like we will always respond. We're always going to create a shared group with the ecosystem lead. If we start seeing potential in a project, we start putting a lot more resources. And that's also the goal of the ecosystem team at Starkware. It's to be that you're basically connecting teams, people to resources they might need. Do they need help with their Cairo contracts? Okay, we're going to connect them to A. Do they need help with marketing, with grants? We connect them with A, B, and C. So we're that first point of contact. And then those teams also have, it's also up to them to prove how serious they are and to which extent they want to be involved. But as an ecosystem team, you put a lot of resources into teams such as Extended, for instance, or Vezu, or Troves, or the gaming ecosystem, like Loot Survivor, because they have a proof of ship, right? They have to ship. We have to have some kind of material to understand to which extent we're going to commit resources to that team. And then based on that, we have internal discussions, and it's this path that you build with that team, right? But this ecosystem team, like me and Shadowfax and Akash and Rihan, we're 4 plus Odin Free, the ecosystem lead. We're always going to reply to your DMs on Discord, on Telegram, on the fact that if you want to be involved in StarkNet and if you need help with building and shipping whatever you have to ship.
Yeah, and so when you guys are kind of trying to figure out what the further impact of this ecosystem marketing and ecosystem growth strategy is going to be as it relates to the tech, right? So you guys just had StarkNet's Grinta upgrade on September 1st. You know, what are some of the main features that you're expecting that will impact these ecosystem projects? How do you see the technical upgrades improving the actual applications in the ecosystem?
Huge boost for UX, right? Because the user gets instant feedback of their transaction status, right? UX just gets amplified. And I think many ecosystems nowadays also have pre-confirmation. So it's not something you need to StarkNet, but it's in general for also the whole Ethereum ecosystem and other L1s that also integrated. In general, it's just a huge UX boost. And that was just shipped on September 1st. I think that's a killer feature or killer tooling for people who are building on StarkNet. It's everything that's related to UX. We also have an open source and battle tested paymaster. So you can decide to sponsor your users' transactions or choose which tokens you want that user to use for gas fees, right? For instance, you have Avenue, which is a DEX aggregator, and you can choose to pay in the Lords token. And the Lords token is something specific to the gaming ecosystem, right? But I can use my Lords to pay for my swap on Avenue. So that's great tooling, right? And then the whole native account abstraction story, right? Just removing as many those annoying pop-ups that you usually see on MetaMask. So that's also a killer feature for new teams entering the ecosystem is, hey, we have great UX and great UX tooling that we can offer you. Here's documentation. Here's how you build with it. Here are some use cases. Here are some games that use it, and this is how they improve their gaming experience. And also, ever since we shipped pre-confirmations, we had a lot of good feedback. I think also from Loot Hero, from the Loot Survivor people, that with pre-confirmations, like they tap and the transaction is instant, right? So for bringing on-chain games to normal users, things just got a lot more easier.
Very cool. Very cool, guys. I think StarkNet has often been kind of touted as one of the leaders in technical innovation. Obviously, the technology is built so that we can go and get adoption, and the applications that's kind of their job is to go out. We had Ruslan from Extended on a little while ago before some of the recent growth. We also had Focus Tree on, and that was another one that was like pretty interesting because it was starting to get real world adoption outside of this crypto Twitter echo chamber. I was just curious if you had any other updates regarding any of these apps that you could share. Just, how is this growth going? Anything that is particularly exciting, any updates or alpha that you can drop on some of the other ecosystem apps that you're most excited about?
I think for focus trees. So what's interesting with them is that now it's people use it to focus to study, and now like for the summer holidays, we had a drop in people using
Of
focus
course.
tree because people don't study during holidays, right? But now we start seeing a peak again, so that's beautiful. With it just indicates that, hey, it's not any Web3 degen that's using this; it's like an actual student at Harvard or something that is using the app. And so, I mean, I put a lot of trust in that team because they know how to ship. I put a lot of trust in Extended because they're ex-Revolut. They just prove that they can ship a quality product. And other games, I think Shadowfax can tell you a lot more about the games. And also combining gaming and finance and DeFi, we have some teams building on that aspect. Yeah, in general, yeah, I think in general, we just put a lot more support into those bigger teams that have shipped and have a history of shipping, but we also give a lot more support, and we continue giving support to the smaller teams, but still have this proof of ship.
Yeah. So, Victor, is there a lot of focus around the Bitcoin aspect of the ecosystem now? Like, how do you guys feel about that? Are you guys more ETH or Bitcoin? Like, what is your personal take?
So
Both of you guys.
I mean, it depends, because at Starkware you have ETH people, you have BTC people, you have both. I don't know, Shadowfax, what side of the coin are you on?
I mean, I've like my first crypto job is this, so like I am tied to the Ethereum ecosystem for now. I am obviously also intrigued by Bitcoin, but I'm gonna have to choose ETH for now.
Awesome.
Okay.
What about you, Victor?
Speaking of the, I'm BTC. I love ETH.
Okay, so good balance here.
Yeah, but I mean, I see the value that we can bring to BTC, and I'm super bullish on the roadmap that Starkware has put on the table for this. And what we can highlight here is what we plan to do after StarkTember, which is Starknet's BTC-Fi. StarkTember is a campaign to kind of, it's the back to the trenches mentality, right? On-chain summer is over, it's back to the trenches, but there's something much bigger coming up. We cannot share a lot, right? We have to keep this superficial because no official announcement has been done, but the BTC-Fi on Starknet is coming.
So, question for you guys. With the DeFi growth, with BTC-Fi, last thing here for you. Obviously, Mega ETH is not live yet, but Athena came out and made out this announcement that they're launching their own stablecoin native to their chain. A lot of L2s have like I'm calling it the token market fit problem right now, where it's like, there got to be some reason to like create a flywheel to get people interested in the Stark token. I'm curious, like from the perspective of like either launching your own stablecoin, creating revenue, this whole like kind of buybacks kind of meta that Hyperliquid and Pump.Fun and Athena are on. Like when it comes to creating a mechanism for the ecosystem to drive value to Stark the token, what are your broad thoughts on this? And if you don't want to comment too deeply, that's all right. I'm just curious how you guys are thinking about this.
In terms of utility, the Stark token has utility, right? Because we're soon rolling out the BTC staking update, where you will able to, like, we will add another economic security layer to Starknet, because you can stake ETH on Starknet now, but you can also soon stake BTC and receive rewards in STRK token. But that's just one of the options that we have. I think what the other projects do is very interesting. It's in some aspects, it's also a marketing move. We've heard this narrative that your token is your marketing, but yeah, I think we focus on. We prefer to focus on the apps and shipping the apps and shipping the roadmap and sticking to it. And the roadmap includes things which are related to the token, right? But all of that to say that the roadmap that we have right now is really exciting. What we have with BTC-Fi coming up next month is also really exciting. So we prefer to stick to those principles. And yeah.
Beautiful.
Our lawyers prefer us to stick to those principles too.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they really do. Guys,
Yes.
thank you for your time. Please get some rest. I know it's a European night. Kind of wish I was still out there, honestly, but back in the States here. Guys, thanks for your time. Look forward to the growth of Extended, the end of StarkTember, what you guys have coming next, Bitcoin Fi, and just kind of more growth in terms of total usage, TVL, etc. So thanks, guys.
Thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao. Alrighty, Rob. Up next, we've got Adam Lawrence, the co-founder of RWA XYZ, following the StarkNet StarkTember segment. How you feeling, man? It is Friday.
It is Friday. I'm pretty excited. I think we've got some motion at the end of the stream, which is going to be pretty exciting. Not really quite sure who's going to come on. We're going to wait and see. But whatever happens, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, Adam is coming on for sure to talk about RWAs. And I'm looking forward to hearing about the growth of his platform. I mean, these guys have just absolutely just nonstop crushed it. So,
I got something fresh off the news wire.
what's that?
Brian Armstrong, 40% of code written at Coinbase is AI generated.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
That just came in a minute ago. And I think it's pretty interesting just to see like, okay, well, these are companies at scale deploying projects that reach millions of users, generating billions of dollars of revenue. And this again highlights how someone like Hyperliquid is able to do the net income of NASDAQ with 832 times less employees.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of Hyperliquid's code is AI generated, but I'd imagine that, you know, they use
Not
some of
very
it.
much. I bet it's not much.
Probably not, but you have to wonder where those efficiency gains are coming from. And so I think
having way less people and
yeah,
not having
and so how are
not
they able to
following any
do
rules?
as much, if not more, with less people?
Not following any rules. When you don't have any rules to live to play by, you don't really have to. It's not that expensive. When you have to follow rules, shit gets expensive. That's the whole Hyperliquid thesis, I feel like.
Yeah, that as well as just being smart and making good decisions.
Yeah,
and
sure.
probably
Rob,
looking at the data
sure,
and reading it.
You
Right?
sound naive, buddy.
Let's get Adam up on the show. I think this one's gonna be a fun one.
Adam,
We'll see what's going on in the data. Adam's on the show. Welcome.
The official research partner, whatever that means. That's just like the receiver of alpha.
We gotta be official, you know. No other way to do it in these days.
Man, congratulations on the success of RWA XYZ. It's your first time on the show. Obviously, we've chatted on the phone. Actually, haven't met in person, but been talking for a while. We'd just love to get a quick intro about kind of the platform, what you guys are looking to build here, what you guys are building, how it all works for our community who's unfamiliar.
Yeah, totally. You know, my name's Adam, one of the co-founders and CEO of RWA XYZ. The name kind of speaks for itself, and you can tell we're pretty early with that 3-letter domain name. So, you know, you guys will, you know, Rollup.com. I think that'll be coming through at some point, you know, for you guys. But yeah, you know, we actually got our starts. I guess, like, simply put, what we do is, you know, we run a data company. So we aggregate every single tokenized asset and put it all into one place, into a really seamless dashboard where people can understand, you know, who is tokenizing, what is being tokenized, on what networks are the assets being deployed onto, and more importantly, you know, you can see all like the bigger institutions that are adopting crypto. You know, we all sort of think that, you know, the institutions are here, they're coming, you know, and that they're going to be the folks that, you know, save the bags of every single crypto investor. And on this site actually is where you can see like the real adoption. You know, we cover stable coins, tokenized treasuries, private credit, a whole bunch of different asset classes. And we actually got our start initially building in Solana DeFi. So not many people know this, but we built the first open source yield aggregator on Solana. And then when FTX crashed, you know, we decided to change course because all the yields went to zero. And we thought, you know, okay, like what's the point of all this stuff, you know? And we kind of went back to first principles and thought, you know, like capital markets and payments, those are by far the largest segments of industry that are going to adopt this technology, and also where everyone's going to make the most money. And so we thought, you know, let's sort of skate to where the puck is going, organize the space, rally the industry, and build the town square for everyone to, look at the traction of real world adoption.
So I'm thinking that RWAs are $100 trillion opportunity here. I'm thinking
it is
around that like market. Is that kind of like the right like ballpark?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think there could even be TAM expanding.
Okay.
I think when technology, it's kind of like AI too. Like we think that there's even more value to be created with these crazy technology sort of shifts, and I think that same thing applies with crypto. We think there's going to be even more value to be created with these tools. Like you're going to shrink, you're going to destroy the intermediaries in finance, but then also enable, unlimited amounts of financial products to be created in customizable ways that no one's ever thought of, and that's growing the pie for everyone.
Adam, so we've just broken 300 billion right now, Adam. I think you probably know that according to your platform, sir. So it's going to be it'll be a 3x or so to get to $1 trillion, and then to get to 100 trillion so about 300x from here is what we're looking for.
We're at 30 billion right now, but
including stables.
Yes, including stables. Oh yeah, we are
300 bill.
Indeed. We love the stables. We're not always looking at them, but we do love the
stables.
You
guys. Yeah. So you count them as a separate category, basically.
It is. I think it's a totally different use case that is also like a massive TAM for the industry. But you pay for things, and then with money, and then you also invest in things, and they're usually two very different use cases. But traditional finance is actually like all the banks. They do payments. They make tons of money on payments, and also make tons of money creating financial products. And so we kind of differentiate between the two. But you'll find many different teams starting to bundle those products into the same thing eventually. But yes, we keep them separate, different use cases, for different users. But real value on chain is we're at the 300 billion mark. It's huge.
I'd love to get your reaction to something that came in probably earlier this week, which is that the NASDAQ is looking at kind of putting out both a tokenized representation and a regulated offering, and kind of pairing these two as a complete product. And I'm just curious where your mind goes when you see these regulated entities that are really core for the market structure in assets, equities, and beyond today. How do you think this plays out, not just from like a scale and like TAM of the industry perspective, but like from a fundamental perspective of how capital formation is going to take place in both avenues harmoniously? How do you think that plays out? What do you think that looks like?
Yeah, that's a super good question. I think it definitely levels so like laws will still exist, securities will still be securities. So that kind of baseline kind of set of rule following will still take place. But I think tokenization, and this with the NASDAQ, it represents finance finally coming into the internet age. There was a lot of, just like how Amazon and all the internet companies, in the grand marketplace of buyers and sellers, the internet makes it extremely easy to aggregate supply and create a single sort of entry point to access any kind of product, whether it's buying houses on Zillow or buying, Labubus on Amazon or whatever else you're trying to buy. That's those same sort of dynamics now apply with assets. And crypto is the perfect example of this. It was very easy to create yield aggregators like Jupiter or 1inch, and it's not easy, of course, but when all the assets are purchasable sort of on chain, you'll have a layer of KYC and all that stuff, but it really sort of levels the playing field for anyone to create their own sort of like access point to buying all these assets. And like at the end of the day, like I think crypto has done an amazing job of rallying together retail capital. And I think that it's a good example of like, let's say you're trying to IPO, and you're trying to sell, your stock to, let's say, like retail investors. Would you rather go to a bank, kind of boomer bank, they might have some nice branding, or they might have some nice kind of columns, let's say, in their office, but would you rather do that, or would you rather IPO through, the Rollup securities, maybe, it's like who would you rather kind of go? who would you kind of, or pump fun or anything else like that, you know? So
The
I think it really just
CEO
levels.
yeah, I mean, she literally was open to ICOs, which was an incredible, like she said, it was an ICO is basically a direct listing of an IPO, and she wanted to make it easier for companies to go public. One of the ways that she could see that happening was a direct listing on a tokenized platform, which she said is effectively an ICO. It's just crazy.
Exactly.
Like their institutions are here.
Yeah, they are.
They're here. Absolutely.
Adam, you sent me I was looking around at okay, so let me wind up. I saw an Ondo post about this Fidelity Trust. I was looking at the RWA site, found it. You were talking about how BlackRock is going to have some competition now, it seems like, maybe with 𝘗𝘪𝘴𝘬. How real do you think BlackRock's #1 spot with Securitize is in terms of RWAs on chain? Like if I look at your site, #1, all assets, BlackRock's USD Securitizes fund. Like how much of a moat do you think BlackRock has? And like, do you think that Securitize and 𝘗𝘪𝘴 will stay as #1 for like the next 12 months? Or do you think that they will be surpassed?
Yeah, well, definitely can't see the future. But, brand goes a long way in finance, especially in the world of, commodity products. Money's a commodity, like a money market fund one versus another, like a lot of these things are all kind of the same. And so I think it's more about just getting the product in front of the right people and the right audience and actually like selling it, So I think that's what everything's going to come down to at the end of the day is who can sell the most products, who can sell the most Labubu's, go to all far and wide, any different country, any different website or kinds of, sort of group of people and just sell. And, I think those places to sell really are the exchanges. They are, it could be like podcasts even, it's like anyone who has an audience, I think the attention is all you need kind of meta that exists in AI. Like that exact same thing applies now in finance. And I think before tokenization, it was really hard to find the kind of assets that people would want to purchase. And when you enter the tokenization age, everything's on the internet. And so it's whoever packages those things in the proper way and sends them down to the right distribution channels to find investors, that's all that kind of matters. And so, I think, again, back in the traditional world, it's when things weren't on the internet, you almost by definition have to meet in person and have to do, in face-to-face kind of deals. And it all sort of changes. Amazon is just a little cute website, but they have literally every single thing in the world. You can never shake anyone's hand from Amazon, but you press a button and someone delivers something to you. So if you build the cheapest way to deliver products to people, I think usually those win.
Yeah.
So you don't see BlackRock,
and
you
then
don't see BlackRock getting taken over or anything? They're #1.
I think they've already taken over in many places, not to do conspiracy theories, but no, just kidding. I think, no, it's definitely true. I mean, if you see the success of a lot of these asset managers in traditional finance and assume there's armies of BD people, a lot of those folks actually have entered, started working full-time in crypto because they're like, wow, I sold products for BlackRock and now I'm selling products in crypto. But yeah, it's kind of like, will the best BD team win, I think.
What are you most excited about in RWAs? It's such a general category.
So yeah, it's a general category. I think there's different like aesthetics, that I think are interesting. I think one of them is a bit more of the goodwill, which is everyone, creating access for people, I think is definitely a huge benefit. And, from like a personal perspective, I grew up like overseas, have lots of family sort of all over the place. And it's really hard to access high quality financial products. And so the access angle is very, very, that's a huge one. I think that in terms of it being most interesting, it's more like people are going from zero to something or zero to, what all of us, assuming we're in the States, like all of us have kind of access to. So I think that in itself is just generally interesting. It's like opening up a whole part of the internet to a group of people that never might have had it before. And so that's like one kind of, what general aesthetic that is very, very interesting to me. I think the other one is more so on the capital markets side of things. There's massive players. We actually just launched a new dashboard in collaboration with a company called Broadridge, which is a publicly traded. Let's see how broad. What are these guys worth? Rich.
Is this the repo thing that you were showing me?
Exactly. Yeah. So these guys are, $30 billion company. So big dogs.
Yeah.
And yeah, they've actively been using blockchains to run processes, where instead of, me sending stable coins to you, it's bank A sending, doing repo transactions with bank B.
Yeah.
And I think this, like, the institutions sort of, in some cases, like, have been here. They just don't really necessarily operate in the clear sort of light that a lot of the other sort of, players kind of do.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see a lot more of these use cases coming out soon.
Yeah. JP Morgan said that they had been using internal blockchains for a while.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that most other banks, like too big to fail banks, are going to launch their own L1s, and there's going to be a few L1s that end up winning. And what do you think is the incentive? Like, how important is it, do you think, for those banks to end up on an Ethereum or a public blockchain versus the consortium chains that they might have been testing internally and we've seen come out here and there?
Yeah, I think it doesn't really matter if whether or not they, or as in like they're, if there's a business case to expand to these like public sort of chains, they will. But even like Citi already has a blockchain running at scale, live in production, but it's between their own customers, and that saves them tons of money. Like it's very beneficial. It's simply like a new ledger where you have the old ledger or the old system, and actually I don't know if they built it internally or if they actually took something out of the box from somewhere else, but just a new like backend that they use to make things cheaper. And I think again, it all goes back to the distribution. Like if there's more money to be made by maybe launching products on Ethereum versus their own kind of like internal corporate sort of network, or maybe like inter-corporate networks, but with a lot of other banks working with each other, then they'll go ahead and do that. So I think one day you'll see the possibility of one tokenized asset, being bridged from one of these corporate chains to Ethereum, or I feel like keep an eye out for one of the bridges, doing some sort of large announcement with in the space with a big bank. But
it seems like the interop providers are poised to win that, whether they end up migrating to a public blockchain or not. Interop is going to connect these banks, and like you said, these are now launching where they're going to go from bank A to bank B rather than end up in a consumer's wallet or bank account. But I'm curious more from like your perspective in building RWA.
Oh, we lost our boy Andy as well. I think.
I think he had a bounce, but I think he's going to be right back. We'll see. Maybe he's
Floridian,
some Floridian bugs flying in, maybe, or getting attacked.
He's off finding alpha somewhere. We'll see what he comes back with.
Yeah, we'll see.
What's coming up next for you guys?
Yeah, I kind of like to say it's more of the same. Like we have a lot of different, we're onboarding tons of different tokenized assets, working with large institutions, small ones, sort of all over the place. Hey, there he is. And yeah, I think just keep an eye out for, numbers continuing to go up, but also like ratcheting up as well as we start to onboard new kind of pockets of data that people didn't necessarily know about before.
Got it. Another kind of off the wall question here, but I'm curious, like, how do you guys make money? Do you have a subscription, and is there an enterprise platform?
Yeah. So it's a variety of things. We do partner up with the supply side, but we also partner up with the demand as well. So we have various institutional clients who consume the API, whether it's for like regulatory oversight or whether it's to produce their own internal kind of metrics, or maybe it's even power their own like wallets and their own investing experiences. So yeah, data companies like even like the large ones like S&P, they work with the people creating assets, and also they work with the people sort of consuming the data for those assets. And so we do a little bit of both at this stage. Yeah.
Very cool.
Adam, what's your tokenization bull case here for like, I really want to get to this 300 bill stablecoins included to 100 trillion. Like what is how is this going to happen? Like, what is the Is it a regulatory question? Is it a time question? Is it like a demand question? Is it a product? Do we need certain sectors to really get interest? Like even maybe just from 300 bill to 10 trill, like what is the 10 or 30x in tokenization today?
All right. I think it's psychology at the end of the day. I don't think it's anything to do with things of the material.
Spicy take. World. Okay.
You know, I like to think of, finance is definitely driven by FOMO, and everything we see in crypto, as momentum, the momentum trade is like this canonical thing that makes you the most sort of money. And that's because that once one person does something that shows that they're making a little bit of money, everyone else starts to follow. And so,
of course,
I'm not sure anyone else can imagine this, but I like to think of TradFi or the adoption as like this amoeba, sort of like squeezing through like a little hole. And as soon as like, a critical mass is out coming out outside, everyone's gonna come in. So that's my take. Once one person does it, everyone else is going to, and you're only going to see things go faster sooner in the space.
And dude, I think sometimes people get a little bit unencouraged and uninspired by RWAs and tokenization because it feels like there's not really that much value in, oh, we're just going to take an asset that exists off chain and just make a ledger annotation such that that says like, hey, this asset exists. What I think is really valuable is like actually having the native asset issuance directly on chain. So the main ledger of Accord is like Ethereum or is Aptos or is Polygon, whatever it is. How do you think about the actual material value of tokenization as a concept? Like if you were to explain this to people who want to understand why this is an important concept and why you're dedicating your career to this idea, and that's not just ledger annotations, is this native asset issuance, is that an important part of it? What are like the core properties of the thesis of tokenization? If you could kind of make it simple for us.
Yeah, it's two things at the end of the day. One is getting rid of intermediaries. It's like the most obvious one, but in between someone buying a stock and selling a stock, there might be 7 different parties involved. When it comes to securitizations or even the more complicated products out there, there will be like up to 12 people in the mix. Like all doing different parts. But when you bring everyone around to the same table, when you bring everyone around to the same ledger, you can get rid of all those sorts of intermediaries and those folks that do just rent extraction. At the end of the day, they sort of start shuffling things from one place to another, not really adding any value. And I think that's like one huge opportunity for blockchain. It's simple, but like it truly is getting rid of all the different intermediaries that you really don't need. Then the second one is, again, not as noble, but it's leverage. So once you have everyone sort of looking at the same ledger, it's very easy to do margining. It's very easy to move your collateral to one venue to another, from one venue to another. And all of finance is leverage, a form of leverage at the end of the day. And so that simply becomes a lot easier and cheaper. So I'd say those two things. And then, the Reg Arb one I would say is probably just the access. So it's easy for anyone with a phone at some point to access any asset in the world.
Yep. Very clear. Adam, last thing from me for you is, you're very much in the weeds with the right people in this space. Different kind of sectors, different types of companies. I'm just curious, what is life like between the flows? You're very much in the flow of information, of value transfer, of this kind of stuff. Like you're in New York. What is the lifestyle and experience of working with institutions very closely, but also working with some of the top crypto projects closely? You're very much just in the information flow. I guess the main question is just what do you value the most about your position in the market at RWA XYZ, as well as just the personal stature that you've built?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about the personal stature part. We like to just do a good service, solve people's problems, keep it pretty simple, but no, it's definitely a privilege. I think there's a lot of trust that people put in us when we work with them to onboard a lot of their assets. And finance at the end of the day becomes a trust game. I was talking about everything's a commodity, and trust ends up becoming this intangible thing that you can kind of feel it a little bit. And so that's kind of our main focus is, we are trustworthy enough to work with large companies that, like the Broadridge data, for example. I think that's never been shown publicly, ever, even to traditional finance. And so we managed to, work with a lot of these big players on those projects. But then at the same time, of course, we kind of have crypto native backgrounds. And so we kind of get to see some of the more wackier stuff that people are launching. And, again, we got our start in Solana DeFi. So we've sort of seen the full spectrum, full spectrum of crypto, I like to call it. But it's fun, it's fun, very busy. I think I have my first gray hair. So, maybe that's a good summary.
I got just one for you. Is there any teams that stick out that you think are doing a really good job and maybe flying under the radar? You mentioned Broadridge, and they're doing some innovative stuff. Well, who else kind of sticks out as doing a really good job in this space?
Yeah. I think there's always always startups that are new, that are building, that deserve tons of shout outs. But I think just for the audience's sake, I think there's two companies that are cool. One of them, both these companies are gonna have announcements coming up soon, so I think it's pretty interesting. But one of them recently had a big announcement. First, it's Figure. So Mike Hagney, the founder, traditional finance guy, launched SoFi, massive fintech lender. They just IPO'd, and they run their entire lending book on the Provenance blockchain, which is crazy.
Wow.
And they have a token, so that's a thing. And the same thing with digitalAsset.com. Both of these players, they also operate at scale. And
wow.
the Broadridge project that we did recently, that runs on Canton, which is also now a public network. So like both of these companies, have been at it for a long time. I think probably one of the most interesting kind of market dynamics that I think is good to note here is that like you can either start like bottom up or sort of top down. And crypto, like the Ethereums and Solanas and the things that we all sort of know and have used, they launched something. It's very much like build it and they will sort of come. We just launched this open ledger to the world, and then you get this very organic bottom up sort of adoption of the technology, and it's crazy to see. And then I think these two companies I mentioned, they sort of started with like the use case in production, and then are now starting to like enter the crypto sort of sphere a bit more. So definitely
Interesting. I've heard of Provenance, but it's crazy that they are doing that much reliability is on them for such a large company's basically financials.
Yeah, it's everything. I mean, it was like a full stack ecosystem. Yeah. The chain and the app and the capital markets on top.
And you're saying Provenance has a token, or the actual company that is doing it has a token? Figure.
Same Figure.
I think there's like a foundation, but I think they might have had some reorgs at some point, but I think they officially merged recently. And there's a token. It's a public blockchain, so you need a token to rally the validators. But
interesting. Oh yeah, here it is. Figure HELOC token. Figure HELOC as in
Yeah, that represents the loan book of the company that so
HELOC as in like home equity line of credit.
Yeah. So that represents, I believe, the portfolio. We're going to do some announcements soon as it relates to Figure Provenance. So you'll see some new saucy data on the site. But I think the core message is that there's companies that went sort of full stack from day one and built every single part of the puzzle. And I think actually more blockchains should be doing this. Everyone should be chains should be verticalizing. Like if you're a chain with a huge treasury, I think you should there should be on-ramps automatically available. You should fund on-ramps, fund off-ramps, fund KYC tools, fund I think the world's going to catch up really. I think these traditional players are going to move extremely slow, but when they do move, they're going to move at scale. And I think a lot of the blockchains have had 10 years to do real things. And I don't want to say that the clock is ticking, but there's a lot of you have to build something useful for people and get it to the hands and start adding value. And so you think you'll see which ecosystems are serious about that and which ones are sort of took it easy for a while. That's my spicy.
And there's quite a few of them, and they want to dog food their own tech now. They want to build apps. They want to do it's coming very hard to a lot of the L1s and L2s. And I mean, the DAT strategy can only go so far. The kind of riding the coattails of lower rates or the market going up can only go so far, et cetera. So
totally,
I think you're totally right. I think a lot of them see this kind of sectors, if you will, as a big part of their potential strategy, because this is, you just kind of go where a lot of the money is. So Adam Lawrence, co-founder of RWA XYZ. Great to have you on. Excited to be working together more closely. Happy to just keep helping on the amplification side, doing some more content on these new shows. We've got Stabled Up with Frax. We've got Money Moves Fast with Polygon. So happy to have you on to co-host once in a while, do some coverage of some of the teams that you guys are working with, bring them on the stream. We're missing RWA Summit. I know that you'll be there. Enjoy that. We'll see you at SmartCon. We'll see you on the live stream at SmartCon if you're going to be there. We'll be good to grab a beer.
Dude, hell yeah, let's do it. You know, the Rollup brand. This is the year of the Rollup brand. You know, let's go.
The year of RWA XYZ is what it is, buddy.
Adam, before you get out of here, you mentioned them twice. Do you own Labubu's? Are you bullish?
Dude, I don't own Labubu's, but you have to. They're a little demonic, you know. So you gotta stay frosty on them, you know. So you see them.
Right. Adam, you're a troll, man. You're a troll, dude. You're a big troll. Did you know that? Has anyone ever told you that?
Yeah, dude. We're just, it's the energy the show needs, right? There we go.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
All right, dude.
Thanks, man. Stay frosty. Man.
All righty. That is Adam. That guy has a funny sense of humor.
Yeah, he is funny. Very dry sense of humor. He's a character.
He's a good dude. All righty. Up next, we've got AJ of Arbitrum Off-Chain Labs. Excited to have him on, talking about the latest at Robinhood. There's going to be more and more coming there from him. And Hyperliquid and Arbitrum One and Robinhood and this Athena USDM thing that they did for Mega ETH and, all of that. So, yeah, it should be a fun one. And then I think we got Farouk after, followed up by maybe Carlos from Securitize. So still just kind of checking in on those guys. But yeah, good stream.
Oh, yeah.
Should be a good stream.
Great stream. Adam's hilarious. We got AJ coming up in just one moment. You mentioned that they might have some affiliation with the Mega ETH Athena stablecoin. What's the connection?
Nah, just curious his take on that, actually. Okay. And just kind of like what's going on. But I think the most pressing thing is what's the latest on Robinhood. I feel like that's kind of gone quiet for a bit, and just trying to figure out what's going on there, and then go from there. So
cool. We're gonna get him up whenever he is ready.
Yep. Yeah, man. Happy Friday.
Arbitrum Token's been on quite a tear as well.
Is it?
The whole market's been pretty bullish.
Yeah, it looks insane, actually. I think I look at my Telegram chat. It says 2-week candles primed on ARB. Actually, literally on ARB is the token that my buddy JP just sent 9 minutes ago. So AJ will be glad to hear that, even though he won't be able to comment on it.
No, we won't. Looks good, but
we've got a bullish Arbitrum chart.
I think the only conclusion it draws, if you work with Arbitrum, you get added to the S&P 500. Is there any other conclusion to draw about Robinhood and Arbitrum?
The Arbitrum effect, AJ. That's what we're gonna call it.
What can I say? I still don't know what you're talking about. What happened? What did I miss?
Well, you missed the Telegram chat of a guy sending TA of the 2-week ARB token chart saying it looks good, but Rob's talking about Robinhood being listed in the S&P 500, and we're calling it the Arbitrum effect.
Oh, there you go. Congrats, Robin. I had no idea. All right. That's exciting.
Congrats, Arbitrum. Congrats, AJ. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's good to have you back, man.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it was. Last I saw you was was at that hot event in Cannes. That's the Aave one. Yeah.
Yeah, very hot. Yeah, exactly. And then I think Robbie, you had me on you to like moderate a debate we had. Like, what was that? Like in December last year or something?
Oh yeah, with Ryan.
Yeah.
He's no longer at Optimism, huh?
No, it looks like he survived.
Yeah, AJ won that one apparently.
Sometimes it's a battle of attrition.
Yeah, Ryan's a great guy.
Yeah, he is. Well, AJ, man, community's dying to know, and I don't even know if you have much to tell us, but I hope there's some updates. So we had this big Robinhood announcement in July. They chose Arbitrum. It was the Ethereum community has really rallied around that. Then we just saw this proliferation of announcements, but they weren't in the same direction. It was Circle launching their own L1. It was Google wanting to launch their own L1. It was Stripe wanting to launch their own L1. So we got really fired up about Robinhood, and then I think some of the community has been kind of let down with the other announcements. It's kind of a lot to kind of go through there, but maybe we can just start with Robinhood. What is the latest on the tech side, on the product side, on the development? What can you share with us as to what the latest progress is?
Yeah, so like with Robinhood right now, there's like really two things that are happening in parallel. One is, and you have to remember, it's very important to understand that obviously Robinhood's not like a crypto native company. Like their priority is not to like build blockchain technology. Their priority is to build financial focused applications for their user base. So right now there's two main work streams going on in parallel. One is the tokenized equities product. That's what launched in the Robinhood app for EU customers on June 30th. And Con, I'm sure all of you guys have saw like all those memes about like Vlad and stuff and the chalkboard and everything. So they're still in phase one of that, which means that you can buy, sell it, and trade in the Robinhood app, tokenized equities. Those all live on Arbitrum 1 today. They continue to add more and more stocks that are available as part of that product. They are working towards, as Vlad, sort of very clearly articulated, a world in which they want these equities to live anywhere. They want them to live on chain. They want them to be able to be posted as collateral. They want them to be able to be swapped and do whatever you want with them outside of just like the core Robinhood app. So that's like work stream number one. They're still in what we call phase one, doing a lot of work on their end around 24/7 trading, around permissionless behaviors, to bring that like fully on chain. That is the thing that I am most excited and bullish about. That's the thing that's growing the pie. That's the thing that's bringing people on chain. That's the thing that like, the original visions that I had for a lot of smart contracts was, instead of just building products that work for crypto people, how do we use crypto to build products that work for the entire world? This is like, I think, the best example of a company accelerating their global growth strategy using crypto rails. So that's like thing one, very important. Thing two, and this is going to get into like the circle, tempo, all those different conversations. Robinhood recognizes as a part of this, it makes a lot of sense for them to have their own blockchain. To do all of this within their own blockchain architecture, work closely with our team. So we are working with them a lot on the design of what the Robinhood chain is going to look like. It's going to be powered by Arbitrum technology. It's going to be a part of the Arbitrum ecosystem through a product we call Orbit. And that's going to live within the Arbitrum, no pun intended, I guess, Orbit. Those are like separate work streams to some degree. And they're both like progressing very nicely. I don't want to like share too much on timelines because there's like never upside, only downside. And it's also more their timelines than mine to share. But it's been really exciting to see a lot of the progress that's happening across both of those things. So the people are going to be really excited. They want to build a very strong ecosystem around this. I think it's like, the way to think about this chain is, I don't think it's their intention to just like launch a chain. It's their intention to launch a chain that's very centralized and focused around the user experience they want to curate. They want external developers to be clear, like to be building on top of it, but they're not just trying to like launch a chain. Right. So we're thinking about what are some of the design decisions that go into this chain that will help, accelerate that. We're thinking about things like, at the infrastructure layer, like what can we do to make the onboarding experience for non-crypto native people as seamless as possible. Right. So there's a lot of things, especially when you consider that like the average Robinhood user is actually not crypto native. Right. So like we like to compare it a lot to like Base because like they're probably the most like natural comparisons generally. I would say more of Coinbase's users like have been on chain than like a typical Robinhood user. So there's a lot of things that we're working on to make sure that user experience. Obviously at Off-Chain Labs, I don't know if you guys saw, we acquired ZeroDev last year. That's like smart account wallet infrastructure we want to make, or last month, that we want to like integrate into these experiences, like for this exact thesis. This was part of our broader thesis for how we can build products that help bring people on chain. So that's like the latest with Robinhood. To comment on like the L1 versus L2 thing, there's a couple of things that I think, and I think that like a lot of these chains that are launching as L1s, I think are much more comfortable because like they're so focused on like the centralized like asset issuance of the stablecoins. I think they have different priorities around like decentralized validation, permission versus permissionless behavior, because they're very centric around these payment use cases. I think if you just think about, like, if you want to launch a chain as an L1 versus an L2, like, unless you're doing like a proof of authority style chain, which it sounds like what Circle is starting with, there is a lot more complexity around launching an L1 than an L2, right? And we can talk about like the intricacies of it, but like the simplest thing is to think about, if you're launching an L2, you're outsourcing security to Ethereum, and you just need to focus on what the execution environment looks like. If you're launching an L1, you need to still focus on the execution environment, but you need to make sure your consensus doesn't break, right? So, like, you can't really solve for that, right? Like that's just a factual statement, you know, like in terms of, and then like, a lot of people like to say like, oh, the problem with L2 is like interoperability and bridging. You don't have better bridging between different L1s, right? So like, unless there was a world in which there was only one L1 that was going to exist, you have worse bridging problems between different L1s than like different L2s because they actually share a consensus environment. So like a lot of those things are different. I think what you're seeing is there's a lot more potentially control. I think that the term people are using for this is like finality. There's a lot of ways to get to finality, you know, and I think that like really, to be honest, what's happening is there's like a confluence of stablecoin issuers that are bringing chains at the same time. And an L1 architecture for them, they actually think might be better. I kind of disagree, but you know, maybe different minds can argue. But I think if you think just generally about wanting to launch a multi-purpose, like a general purpose chain, even if it's opinionated, like the Robinhood one might be in terms of features, L2 architecture where you just have to focus on execution environments is a much better architecture. The second point, which is really critical, is around the operating margins of these chains. And this is it's somewhat related. It's less technical and it's more business. But if you look at like an L1, let's say you want to launch like an L1 with like a blockchain with like, you know, proof of stake system, right? For example. So first you have to launch a token, which is already a lot of complexity for a lot of these larger enterprises. But let's say you got to the place where you're comfortable launching a token, right? You're like fully all in, we're going to launch a token, we're going to build a blockchain. The biggest challenge and the reason why I recommend L2 architectures consistently is unless you know you're in the blockchain business, one of the biggest problems with an L1 architecture, proof of stake architecture, is that your costs are not a function of your revenue.
Yeah.
So what do I mean by that? If you like, let's say run like, look at like Sui or Avalanche or Aptos or Solana, they are all inflating the token supply for the sake of security at the rate and tune of like between 5 and 9% annually. All right. So if your token is trading at $1 billion, in order for you to get that economic security in the proof of stake system, you're spending between $50 and $90 million on security. There might be 0 transactions, right? Like it could be that there's absolutely no transactions, but your like hard fixed cost, if you want to maintain that level of economic security, is somewhere between $50 and $90 million. If you look at an L2 architecture, like an Arbitrum 1 or a Base, and Base doesn't have a token, right? Obviously Arbitrum 1 does, but it uses ETH for gas token. Your expenses for security, what you pay the L1, scales with your demand. So if you have no transactions, you don't pay economic security.
Yep.
And this is a really important difference because a lot of these enterprises, they want to launch chains as an accelerator to their broader business. They're not like trying to focus on building blockchains, but you can get stuck with a product that has like this $50 to $90 million overhead. If you've got an L2, and let's say even your strategic strategy changes and you don't want to maintain this as a key priority, well, you just have less transactions, right? You might like have to pay some operating overhead to keep it running, but you're not just like emitting tokens. And if you stop, then like the chain security model breaks. And that's like, I think one of the killer differences. I know I've been rambling for a while, so I don't know if you guys have any questions or I've been trying to like sort of lay it out like very like clearly. That's the killer distinction, right? Yeah. And it's a superpower, by the way. Like if you look at Arbitrum 1 and Base, they run right now at like a 93% gross profit margin, right? So Arbitrum 1 has no inflation for security. Base obviously is like a centralized company. We're generating $2 to $5 million a month in transaction fees at like a 93% gross profit margin, right? Like that is a killer feature of the L2 model. I've actually argued in the past that I think L1 is like not getting its fair share. That's like, you know, for a different conversation.
Yeah.
But like the fact that like the simple fact that you can maintain a 93% gross profit margin, you can scale what your security costs are as a function of your revenue and as a function of your growth. And if you decide to strategically pivot, you're not stuck with this overhead. To me, those are like the killer differences. And again, in a proof of authority system, right? So if you're launching an L1 or proof of authority, you just like shut it down. But the problem is then users might have their assets stuck, or it might have the economic security of the chain might change. And again, I'm not judging that difference, but it's not the same economic security. If Arbitrum 1 decided to shut down, you just do a forced inclusion mechanism to get all your assets back to Ethereum. Again, it's not an ideal outcome, but we're not stuck with it. The users aren't stuck with this, right? It's like a totally different security model.
Yeah, I mean, Victor Bunin from Coinbase, he's like a protocol specialist. He responded to one of the clips that we had asking we just had the Circle CTO on Monday and asked him, kind of why do an L1? And he kind of compared it to AI compute and GPUs. Basically how, we started with like low level, basically very general GPUs, and then got to really more sophisticated ones as the models got more heavier and, more resource intensive. And Victor's like, okay, that's fine, but like networks are defined by their network effects. That's the entire point. Comparing the network that they're building to a phenomenon with zero network effects is a fundamental misunderstanding of what can make ARK successful. And he says that if the argument is just Circle will be the only one using the chain, then yeah, I get it. It's just about the scale, throughput, customization. But even then, L2s are faster and cheaper to run. So just do that. And he says, he wishes ARK and Circle well, but he's just not seeing how the product strategy is going to play out. And so that's kind of his take. And I think it aligns, decently well with what you're saying. But again, these are Ethereum people speaking. So you got to kind of measure the,
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's not even so much about Ethereum. I think, like I'll give you like our general perspective. Like Ethereum is the best L1 for us to settle to, right? What I'm really advocating for with enterprises is you don't want to be stuck with a fixed cost.
Yeah.
Irrespective of what your future strategy is. That sentence has nothing to do with Ethereum, right? I think if people decide on L1, L2 architecture, like Ethereum will probably end up being like their best decision. But I mean, look, we have L3s that settle to Arbitrum 1. We have L3s that settle to Base. I think we have some L2s that are planning to settle to Hyperliquid using the Orbit stack. I'm more explicitly talking about this concept of like, make sure you don't get stuck with fixed cost, rely on the security mechanism of the underlying chain. Again, everyone's going to have a different security mechanism with the underlying chain. I think that's why Ethereum is the best for this model. You can, have the most confidence in that security. But, again, businesses pivot all the time. I think that, and again, it's a little bit different in these like sort of proof of authority style chains. And for example, like the Stripe one, from what I understand, it's not actually Stripe. Like Stripe and Paradigm invested in this like third-party team. So like I'm guessing that blockchain is not going to go anywhere. But if you're an enterprise that's building a blockchain under your brand and your strategy pivots, you don't want to get stuck with a massive fixed cost.
Yeah, that's basic business.
Right, exactly. So like that's really again, my pitch has nothing to do with Ethereum. I think Ethereum is the best execution consensus layer for this. I think Arbitrum as a product is the best execution environment for you to do this. But that's like orthogonal to like the core pitch, which is get really high gross profit margins and de-risk what happens if you decide to shut down the product.
Just the last guess that we were having this conversation that there's already consortium chains that are internal to Citibank and internal to JP Morgan, and they just haven't really publicized it a lot. And it kind of feels like that could be the play if Circle is the only one using ARK, but they've gone and made it public for the intent of boosting their valuation presumptively, right? And
I think the Google one's going to be closer. Again, I haven't looked at all the specs, but my suspicion is the Google one's going to look a lot more like what you're describing on the consortium chain side, right? Like, I don't know if this is going to be like a permissionless network that anyone can use or deploy. I'm not 100% sure, but my suspicion is it's going to look more like that.
I'd like to get your take aside, because you give a really comprehensive insight into the technology of it and how that relates to the business element of it. And just taking the business side one step further, you had a pretty passionate tweet about buybacks and how passionate you are against buybacks. And I was just curious, like you guys are operating at great profit margins, like you said, as an L2. And there's plenty of other businesses out there that are also, using Arbitrum in some way, shape, or form, and also running incredible businesses. Some use buybacks, some don't. What is your argument against buybacks? Why do you feel so strongly that these are not the right way to grow a token and get more growth capital into the industry?
Okay, so I'll tell you my take on this, and it's like it's maybe it's a bit of a hot take, but one of the things that I think fundamentally, I think the reason why people are doing buybacks is one of two reasons. By the way, I should just say there are actually some exceptions to this. Pump.fund, again, doesn't mean you do 100% buyback, but like the revenue that Pump.fund generates and Hyperliquid generates are potentially like a kind of exceptions to what I'm saying. I just want to kind of caveat with that, right? Like those numbers are like incredible and outstanding. All right. The first thing is, I think a fundamental reason for why a lot of people advocate for buybacks is because they don't believe in the governance of the protocols that they hold tokens in, that they will do a good job of growing the value that accrues to these tokens. That's like number one. And if you don't believe that, a buyback is like a surefire way to gain confidence that's like kind of unavoidable around like just like a deflationary concept, right? So I think that like, but that to me is like the opposite of ambition, right? That's just skepticism, right? The second is, I think people don't, like a lot of the crypto businesses don't have large enough moats where they feel like if they reinvest, they'll see the returns, right? And I'll tell you what I mean by that. And it's, you know, it's not a tragedy, it's the wrong word, but it's like one of, I think, the unfortunate like byproducts of crypto ethos, which is like, it's very easy if you want to like vampire attack a protocol that's done a ton of innovative work to just like launch a token, do it, and like attract capital extremely quickly. We've seen this like through AMM wars, we've seen this through perp wars, right? So in like a traditional business, right, if you're growing like crazy, you're just funneling back money in because you've got something proprietary. You've got user lock-in usually to some degree, and you just continue to funnel, right? So like those are two, I think, very distinguished differences in crypto versus, let's say, a traditional company. The thing that I don't think is true is just because you have decentralized ownership and decentralized control of a protocol, it doesn't mean you don't have to run a protocol like a business to some degree. So I look at something like Arbitrum, okay? We have, and I'll walk you through some of the different programs and initiatives that are going on. We have a ton of incredible things that are happening beyond transaction fees. Like I would be surprised if in 5 years from now that the majority of Arbitrum revenue actually comes from transaction fees. I like to use this term called economic zones of opportunity. And I'll walk you through what that means. And I'll walk you through like how Arbitrum is designed, because I think it's like one of the most fundamental things that differentiates Arbitrum from other protocols. And I know, like, I don't know how much, I don't know if somebody after me, but I can go on for a while.
No, just keep going. Farouk's coming on, but like, just let it rip. This is really interesting.
Okay. So this is very different distinction also, by the way, between L1 and L2 models. And I was talking, like, I quote tweeted something from Mert about this when he was talking about like the Solana stablecoin. The nice thing about Arbitrum is that, like I said, we have 93% gross profit margins, right? If you don't have a DAO-like architecture, what are you supposed to do with that money, right? You either like go into like a centralized entity, like Coinbase. Again, I'm not criticizing, it's just a public company. Or you have to like programmatically do buybacks. So that's one of the things that like L1 blockchains, and it's one of the criticisms I have of like Ethereum, and I've been talking about this in the concept of like funding development. It's a criticism to me. You cannot have like a burn and like giving validators like if 100% of rewards go to a burn and to validators, you're screwed in a rainy day. Like imagine if like when Ethereum was doing $30 million a day in 2021, they're like, wait, we don't need to give a 12% return to stakers like and burn the rest. Like why don't we save $100 million a month that we're generating for like a rainy day? Right? The problem that everybody always criticizes is, well, we're not going to have a credible neutral entity that's going to do that. One of the nice things about like the L2 model like Arbitrum, every dollar of on-chain revenue, whether it comes from transaction fees or like time boost, which is like the ordering mechanism, flows on-chain into the Arbitrum DAO's treasury wallet. The only way to get those funds out is an Arbitrum DAO vote by the token holders. So right now, like that treasury, like the Arbitrum DAO controls like 2.7 billion ARB. But then on top of it, they have like $200 million of non-ARB assets. It's like around 100 million like stable assets and like 100 million in ETH. All of that is controlled by the token holders, right? So the way I think about this is, what do we have do we have $200 million of stuff that we plan to do to grow the demand for the technology and continue to compound value, right? So what happens is if, let's say we just distributed all of that to like token holders, right? So everybody got like a 5% yield, 4% yield, right? What happens when Arbitrum's progress slows down? We have to sell more tokens from the treasury. Like, what did we just gain, right? We should be getting to a point where we continue to compound the business. So that means demand for our products, our core products, our Orbit and Arbitrum One, and continue to find business lines that compound that. So what are things that like the Arbitrum DAO has done, right? So the most, like, I would say, unique example of this is what we call the Arbitrum Gaming Ventures. So that is a fund, essentially. The LP of the fund, like you can read the Cayman bylaws. Essentially, the LP of the fund, it's structured a little bit differently. It's structured like a foundation, but if you read it, the only one who can call capital from it is a vote of the Arbitrum DAO. So effectively, the Arbitrum DAO token holders have full ownership and control of this entity. It's like a 5-person team with like investor experience deploying capital on behalf of Arbitrum token holders. It's really freaking cool. They call that a round of Paradigm. They call that a different round in T-Rex with Framework. And all of the value that's going to be generated accrues back to Arbitrum token holders. But what's actually happening if you think about it? We're using our treasury to attract the category, gaming. So we're bringing games on chain onto Arbitrum. This is a category, by the way, that you're never going to make money off of transaction fees. So if you look at all of these different ecosystems that are trying to like bring games, right? And you can say like games is a worthless category. Put that aside for a second. If you're going to allocate capital, why are you allocating capital in the form of grants? In no upside. These games, the gamers don't like trade perps after. So you're not making money on transaction fees. They don't like really use Uniswap. They play games, they buy in-app things, right? Nobody wants high transaction fees. So you align with the category, with the vertical, in a way that creates and captures value for Arbitrum, which is at the application layer, whether it's tokens, whether it's equities, whether it's rev share, while also continuing to grow demand, right? Another great example of this, and again, this only works, and it goes back to the point I said about governance. This only works if you have confidence. Like, this is not like white labeling like an external VC that's just like doing an ecosystem fund. This is on behalf of the ARB token holders. It doesn't work if it's not a foundation that's like not controlled. It's actually controlled by Arbitrum token holders. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Another example of this is very similar, right? There's a big push now to bring RWAs on chain, right? So there's a lot of ways you can do that. But one of the things right now that you're seeing is there's a ton of supply. Every major asset manager is issuing RWAs. The demand side, because we're still like figuring out regulatory clarity of like how do we have this stuff work in a DeFi environment, demand side is light. So one of the things that Arbitrum strategically did is the Arbitrum DAO started buying RWAs. They've had RFPs saying, we're going to buy RWAs, join the Arbitrum ecosystem. We built out the supply side, the demand side, right? So the Arbitrum DAO owns 45 million RWAs from BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, Wisdom Tree, a number of others. I don't want to leave anyone out, but you get my point. So that's like not the sexiest possible return. But again, you have 45 million in assets that are earning about 4 to 4.5% a year, all controlled by the Arbitrum token holders, controlled by the members of the DAO, but more importantly, are utilizing resources to compound demand and growth for the network, right? They're not relying fundamentally on like a foundation that has a finite amount of tokens that's just like solely selling tokens to continue to fund growth. Yeah, the Arbitrum Foundation has tokens to help grow the ecosystem. So I'm not saying, but their role is much more diminished. Like they have like 3% of the token supply versus like 40% of the token supply. The token supply lives with the DAO. If the Arbitrum Foundation wants more tokens, they need an on-chain vote by the token holders. So the power lives in the hands of the token holders. And that's a really important distinction because you have confidence if you invest in these business lines, right? Like, I don't know if you know the Entropy guys well. They're controlling, through a treasury management program, $88 million on behalf of the DAO now, which is getting deployed into protocols like Aave, Fluid, Camelot, like, Morpho, like, and all of this is being accrued to the Arbitrum DAO. So the broader thesis is why buybacks, to answer your question. This is the longest answer you've ever heard on this show. The thesis is that you do buybacks when you don't have confidence that you have mechanisms to have sustained growth. The thing about Arbitrum, which is nice, and I would say, you might disagree, but I think it's pretty true. There is strong product market fit for the actual underlying product. Right? A lot of people who want to use Arbitrum 1, there's a lot of people who want to use the Orbit stack. The question is how do we build a business to continue to create more demand for that? Right? If we didn't have stuff to do with it, if there wasn't people who wanted to take the Arbitrum token holders' money to invest in games, if there wasn't DeFi protocols that wanted to give good opportunities to the Arbitrum token holders, then yeah, we should be returning capital. But we have way better things to do than the equivalent of a buyback or a dividend, considering the amount and magnitude of growth that we have moving forward.
And it's just like you got to invest in the business, like that's basically like if you had to summarize exactly everything that you're saying, it's like invest in research, R&D, business development, scaling, and not just in because then you just start chasing your token up as well. There are certain ways to think about buybacks. You could set really low bids if you had extra cash and like have a floor, but people are just equating the value to just immediate buying. Guys, we're gonna have to wrap here in a couple minutes, but yeah, just kind of closing thoughts here, Rob.
And just one thing, what you're saying speaks volumes about Arbitrum's community and DAO governance, because something you preface this by saying that a project with a less robust governance process is not able to facilitate the decisions about how to allocate that capital.
100%. It's our superpower right now. Arbitrum is the only, I think, it's for sure, there's no L1s that could do this. I think it's the only L2 that the token treasury, in order to move it, is an on-chain vote by token holders, right? So again, the way the token holders think about it is they have the power of the purse. They control it. And the question is, we have to build consensus that what should we do with this money, right? And that's a critically powerful thing. And it's unique. And, again, people don't, I think, realize the magnitude of it. I'll look at the latest dashboards. It's somewhere around $200 million in non-ARB assets that are controlled by the Arbitrum token holders. And again, every day, more transaction fees at a 95% gross profit margin business keep flowing in. And we've got, more and more distributed and diverse revenue streams that are continuing, to grow the business, and that's the real focus of what we're doing right now.
You alluded to another really interesting question about a potential avenue to allocate capital, which is this enshrining stablecoin. Just to get a succinct answer there, to close that loop, good idea, not a good idea? Good idea for some projects like Solana, but maybe not Arbitrum. What's the conclusion to draw?
I think it's very interesting to look at. I think like the hyperliquid stuff this week has been fascinating. One of the things that I think has changed is the dynamics of the relationship between asset issuers and chains, like who actually has the leverage. Like hyperliquid was a great example of a shift there. A lot of this is a function of the Genius Act. I think there's going to be a lot more commoditization of stablecoin issuance. So it's like an evolving thing. I'm not going to comment on any strategies that we're looking at right now, but it's a great example of building another business line that can compound value, right? Like blockchains don't have to have a sole business line of transaction fees, right? The same way that what all the stablecoin issuers, implicitly decided is they don't have to have a business that's only net interest margin. They're launching blockchains now, right? And I think it's just a continuing question of how do you create value? How do you capture value? How do you compound value? How do you grow the business? And whether you're a DAO or whether you're an L1 or whether you're a private company, I don't think anything philosophically changes. I think people's skepticism of certain governance structures might change. I think the ability to actually execute might change. I think the power of community might change. But like fundamentally, you have to understand your business and figure out what levers you have. And that doesn't change.
Yeah. AJ, absolute pleasure as always, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
AJ, you just silenced all the L1 RAV maxis and buyback revenue meta maxis in 25 minutes. So this is going to be.
I'm happy to like discuss it because I'm sure there's stuff I'm missing. But like I'm pretty passionate about this because I think it's really important. Because otherwise, like. I know you're trying to kick me off, but I'll just end with this one thing. I've been in crypto since like 2017. I think one of the things that's evolved and that's I feel like kind of like sad and disappointed. I think people have gotten less ambitious, right? It used to be people were trying to build $100 billion protocols, right? And now I feel like, and a lot of this has to do with like the financialization of like meme coin trading and stuff. I'm not passing judgment. I just feel like what people's end goals are of what they're trying to build over longer time horizons has shifted. And I think buybacks and this whole meta is an extension of that. And I find it to be really unfortunate, personal opinion.
From a hyperliquid investment, I find it to be extremely fortunate for the sake.
Hyperliquid's different. Again, like
Yes,
they generate so much money.
Correct.
But again, even though it's hyperliquid, I know those guys, they source a lot of their liquidity from arbitrage. I got a pretty good relationship with them. I wish, like, you know, they have like, I don't know, what is it, like somewhere around 10,000 daily active users. If they want to tackle a lot of the biggest players, the Binances of the world, if they, like, Binance is investing probably $2 billion a year in marketing and growth.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it doesn't, like, there's, Hyperliquid's a tiny team generating a ton of cash. Like, I feel like there's a better balance than, like, what is it, 97%. That's a personal opinion. Again, these guys are better executors than I am. So I'm not, like, I'm like deferring to Jeff and Julian. I know
So
these guys are crushing it. So, like, I'm not, like, here to tell them that they're wrong because they know their business extremely well. But, like, I don't know, I'm so curious about, like, if they change it to like a 70-30 or 60-40 or toggled with it, I'm curious to see how things would change. I mean, obviously they built an incredible business, so.
Yeah, I mean, the community is used to the 100%. If they changed, it would destroy sentiment, I think, and just, I mean, yeah, pump is a little bit different. It's a bit more opaque, but hype's been the same way, just through and through. So, AJ, man, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Farouk, what's up?
Guys in the back. Yes, sir.
Good to see you, buddy. I'm gonna leave you guys. See you.
Thanks, AJ. We'll see you next time.
All right, we got a whole lot going on in the back. We got Farouk, Carlos, the CEO of 𝘂𝘂𝘂𝘂, just hopped in. He might join this session. We're gonna start with just getting Farouk up, and then we will reorient around our boy Carlos. Just give us a quick sec while we got Farouk in the back. Rob, let's get your take on that.
Man, absolutely incredible flow. While you change the headline, absolutely incredible flow from AJ. I mean, comes on, went for a 20-minute rant before even getting prompted a question about the difference between why a change could launch an L1 versus launch an Ethereum L2, and why Robinhood decided to launch their L2 with Arbitrum Orbit. Absolutely incredible rant, great flow, and then goes into another just really comprehensive, educational, but also entertaining, because AJ, just has a way with words. And just a great insight about the alternate, the right way to do buybacks and the wrong way to do buybacks, and why a company that has as much revenue as we're seeing Hyperliquid and Pump generate, but why it's important to also allocate to the growth of the protocol and not just, without faith in the ability of the protocol to generate some sort of return on that capital, just use it to buy the token. So just
I agree. I mean, it's just like,
really comprehensive and insightful.
Everyone looks at Hyperliquid and is like, oh, this is the only way to do it. But it's like, guys, they're generating 2 mil a day. Same with Pump. It's like, come on, there's a reason why they're able to do this. So, all right, let's get Farouk up. He's in the back. I think he's ready. He's on now. It is the literal midst of the prediction markets mania right now. You are positioned over a year ago. You saw this coming, man. Welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you, man. It's a big day for us.
AJ, because age is good, man.
Yeah, I hear you. And we might have Carlos join you for a bit, so might get institutional real quick, but we're just going to get started. He's got a hard stop. We got a little complicated there. We're trying to make this as fun as possible. But, man, we are in the midst of the prediction markets meta. You guys are obviously building Myriad. I've got you as Farouk on prediction markets times media. Give us your prediction markets times media thesis. Why is this such a powerful combination, and how do you feel that this is going to shape the future of content media in general?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you having me to talk about this. For us, we made the pivot. Well, not really the pivot. We decided to get into prediction markets in March 2024, so about 18 months ago, from ideation to like execution. Then we launched September 9th last year in beta to like 2,000 users, like small group, and then fully launched USDC markets earlier this year. But for me, it just made perfect sense, right? You run a large media company. I mean, at this stage, we own Rug Radio and Decrypt Media, right? Decrypt Media being the second largest news site in the industry after CoinDesk. So we're arguably one of the largest media players in the game. And as you both know, media companies are extremely hard to monetize, right? It's very hard to make money as a media company. You're either bleeding cash or you just barely break even until you sell to a billionaire, right? I think that's why Time was acquired by Benioff, and then Bezos buys WSJ, Elon Musk buys Twitter. So there's always that. But the thing is, that's not enough. And so Lox and I, my co-founder and CEO, were thinking like, yo, like, how are we going to monetize this media company? How do you build a unicorn? How did you build a billion-dollar company? And then someone throws this at us in Hong Kong during a meeting last year, like, yo, you guys should do prediction markets. And that was before the poly market boom that really happened during the summer, right? The whole election thing. And as soon as that happened, we were like, okay, fuck it. Sorry for my French. Like, let's go. Let's build this. Let's build a prediction market platform. Makes perfect sense because we own Rug Radio, which is like the voice of the people, right? It's like a crypto native podcast platform that made its way to the White House, right? Led by myself. Then you own Decrypt Media, which is like journalism, right? It's just news, pure news. But then you have prediction markets, which we all know the value of them, which is really where people can put their money where their mouth is, and you can get different types of news. And it makes perfect sense for the media flywheel to enter that and then to become more of a tech company powered by media.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, it's just a perfect combination. Like, well, at a certain point, we're pushing the frontier. I like to think about prediction markets almost as these like alternative realities that can take place. We just don't know which one of them is going to take place yet. And it kind of puts your mind in this quantum reality where it's all probabilistic. We have a probability of going into this, probability of going into that, and it's all dependent on the outcome. And at a certain point, truth, like literally what media is built on, which is truth, and what we perceive is all built around this probabilistic nature of the things around us and the outcomes of those things happening. So prediction markets and media just make such a perfect blend when we're thinking about how we're putting together this world that we live in. So it makes total sense. And I think now you're starting to see some of the prediction market platforms become more news. And they've started at the prediction markets angle. They're going into more media. You start in the media angle and now going prediction markets. Ultimately, I imagine you'll meet at the frontier, the edge of these two markets.
Well, that's exactly what it is. I think 𝘱𝑒𝘯𝘗𝑚, for a moment after the election, right? The biggest winner, the second biggest winner after Donald Trump of that election was poly market and 𝘱𝑒𝘯𝘗𝑚, right? And he likes to say that prediction markets are the source of news. I agree and disagree in that front, right? I agree in the sense that yes, prediction markets won that election and showed that they are a source of news, but people still need different sources. Like you guys are an example, right? Creators, right? But then again, journalism done right? Without we see mainstream media do it wrong, sadly, but journalism done right, which I believe we're doing over at Decrypt. I think Blockworks and other media platforms in the space are doing a very good job in crypto. I think it just adds it on to that. So you're able to really see everything now. It's like what the people actually think, what a journalist thinks, and what a creator thinks. And I think it's up to then the person to go and make their own, opinions out of that.
So we're going to throw you a curveball. We've got Carlos Domingo, the CEO of StarkTember in the back. He's going to join the conversation. This is two different parts of the crypto kind of verse coming together. We've got a lot of the institutional side, and we've got some of this more kind of native, in the on-chain, in the actual kind of state of using the technology that has been built. So guys, Carlos, welcome to the show. And I think this would be a fun panel to just kind of get both of your perspectives on just some of the latest happenings really in the space. So Carlos, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for inviting me. And sorry, I'm not going to have a lot of time, but I was supposed to be joining at 4:30, but I'll be here for a few minutes with you guys. I didn't want to miss the opportunity to say hello to you.
Yeah, appreciate that.
All good, man. All good. We know how the traffic gets down there in I think where you are. But we've got a very interesting mix here between StarkTember and Farouk from Rug and the media side of things. And so Carlos, just to kind of introduce, you and you've been on the show before, but you guys are working with BlackRock, you're working with some of the biggest institutions in the space, and you're bringing on billions, soon to be trillions into the space. I'm actually curious because you're not necessarily in this world, but a very, very similar adjacent world. What is, Carlos, your take on the prediction market meta that's forming this entire new asset class? Is this something that institutions are taking a look at? Is it interesting to them? Or generally, how do you see these worlds converging?
I think prediction markets, by the way, are very interesting, and they're not necessarily just a crypto thing. I mean, prediction markets is something that has existed outside of crypto before, and now it's becoming a crypto thing as well. I think they're very interesting, as I think Farouk was mentioning, that I kind of like take the social temperature of what people think, right? And sometimes those things tend to be a lot more accurate. So from the RWA perspective, which at the end of the day is just, bringing financial assets on chain, and some of them have, price, that changes, etc. I think prediction markets are probably a very interesting, way of maybe looking at different price predictions for things once they are on chain and they interact with prediction markets. You guys probably are familiar with eToro. So eToro used to have this social construct where people were trying to replicate portfolios by following, what other people were doing, etc. So to some extent, prediction markets are like that. Or you could maybe create a prediction market about what portfolio will perform better or what asset will go up higher, etc., and see what people think and whether that gets correlated with what happens on the markets.
I anticipate we're going to start to see prediction markets on the size of the RWA industry. Who's going to be leading? Farouk, from your side, I just kind of a reciprocal question here. Like, how are you thinking about RWAs and the absolute, like, just the scale of inflows into the space? We have institutions all across the board that are now coming in and they're onboarding their flows and their users and their balance sheet. When you're building for this next wave of institutional capital, how are you framing this? I'm curious also from a media side, have you started to shape kind of a different nomenclature, different terminology that you're using? What's the right way to think about this?
And actually, you're going to love this one, Carlos. We ran prediction markets on RWAs last week.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Awesome. I'll send you the article that our CEO wrote for the crypt. But basically, we were running prediction markets on the Darth Vader lightsaber that was selling at auction, right? And so you can do that for like so many different assets, right? You have an asset right now that, let's say, is going to sell at an auction for X amount of money. Not everybody can afford it, right? A lot of people can't. I definitely can't afford Darth Vader's last lightsaber, right? Goes for millions. But you know what I can do? I can take my opinion on whether or not it's going to sell for over under $3 million at auction, right? And I can do something like that and be able to take to have skin in the game and also almost like feel like I was part of this auction, right? Almost feel like
price of the auction.
Yeah, exactly. It was a prediction market about the price of the auction. Now we're going to run a few about like the price of like, RM autos, like what this Ferrari F whatever is going to go for, or what this like, Rolex Daytona Le Mans is going to
new
sell.
avenue of price discovery.
Exactly. New avenue of price discovery. And then it also allows multiple people to have skin in the game and to partake in this. So for us, like, that's how we approach it on the prediction market side. Now on the media side, like, yeah, definitely we're covering. I see people on the crypt side or journalists like cover RWAs a lot. Actually, when Securitize was announced, right? Like we were right up there all over that news. Personally speaking, I haven't dabbled too much into RWAs because I like to collect items. I'm a big watch guy, kind of obsessed with watches in a way.
Nice.
It's a good way to park crypto, but every time I buy a watch, we dump like 40%. Maybe it's correlated. But in a way, I guess that's a good asset to own. But I still haven't wrapped my head around whether or not I want to own the digital version of it, right? Same thing with the latest Pokemon thing. I'm curious your thoughts, of course, but I'd rather have the card still. I still rather have the PSA 10 little slab.
This is similar. Like next week, they do the RWA summit in New York. I'm doing a panel with 𝘱𝘯𝘵 from Ostium about perps versus RWA.
A debate, yeah.
And it's kind of like the same thing. If you want to speculate on price, you don't need to own the asset, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to own the asset, then you need to get the asset. So there's going to be people that are just speculating on price, that they would like to buy the digital version or a fraction of a digital version just to see what the price does. And not actually own the asset. And there is people that would like to actually own the asset, right? They're not going to buy like a fraction of a Picasso. They'll wait until they have money to buy the actual Picasso and put it on their home. So the same thing I think applies to all sort of financial assets. Some people want to own stocks. And then, if you do tokenization of stocks the right way and the token represents the stock, they're going to buy it. And some people are just speculating with price and they're going to buy some of these weird derivatives that are out there that do not have any intrinsic value, but they just track the price for people to speculate with it. So
this is the thing, right, Carlos? Like NASDAQ said that they're going to go and they're going to tokenize a lot of these equities. BlackRock has said that they want to tokenize these ETFs. Which one is the real, like, if you have it on both and you can speculate on price on both, and where does settlement take place? What is your reaction to some of these offerings from regulated entities that are talking about tokenizing their assets?
So the announcement from NASDAQ and DTTC is actually not what I will refer to as like the tokenization the way I will do it, because it's just basically everything stays where it is, right? Is DTC has a ledger already that keeps track of all the shares that are tradable, and they're going to use a blockchain for that. But then it's going to trade in the same place, which is Nasdaq, with the same market participants. So you and I or any other one will not be able to, become a new market participant there. So while it's great to see Nasdaq and DTC, pushing for tokenization, I don't think that is a radical departure from where we are. What I think tokenization is more interesting is when you can actually take shares in native form outside of DTC and put them on a blockchain where people can trade them in new market structures, whether they're like the DEXs or all type of crypto centralized exchanges that have the right licenses to trade equities that you can then use them as collateral for borrowing, etc., which you will not be able to do with the way that Nasdaq and DTC announced the other day, because it will just be within the same place. We tokenize a company called Exodus, and that is in both places, but two different shares. Like there's some shares that are on DTC, some shares that are in the books and records of the transfer agent using a blockchain, which is essentially tokenization. And that's, I think, the interesting part, right? Or things like, Beetle or some other products we have where the token does represent the actual the security, and that trades outside normal market things and can do things like peer-to-peer transfer, trade 24 hours, have instant liquidity on chain. And that's what I think is interesting about tokenization. Tokenization, just to keep everything as it is.
Yeah,
it's maybe a more efficient way. It's an efficiency play. The other one, it's a way to create new markets, right? In innovation, I always say that there's some innovations that provide efficiencies and some innovations that create new value because people do new things or things that you couldn't do before. So anything that is just pure efficiency is less interesting than creating new markets, new value, allowing for new functionality, which I think is where the interesting things will happen.
Yeah.
It's just like, I was all talking to somebody else. I mean, you guys are all very young, but I do remember when internet started, you had the American Online or MSN, walled garden, and then you have the open internet, right? So for me, and the open internet ultimately is the one that we're all using and where all innovation happened, and it happened because it had permissionless innovation, right? Anybody could actually create a website, talk to any other, create a new protocol, a link to any place, etc. And the other things were walled gardens closed for only the approved market participants, if you want, that could post content or do things, and those things die, right? Because they were just basically an efficiency version of other means of distributing content, while the other thing was an open platform for permissionless innovation, which is what a blockchain is, right? So I'm a big proponent.
There we go.
The second
that's
model.
The institutions talking dirty to us crypto natives right there. I swear, that's what that sounds like.
By the way, some institutions like BlackRock do share this belief, right? Because they tokenize in the public Ethereum blockchain.
Baby.
That's where they started.
Yes,
they
Carlos.
decided to do it on a permission blockchain closed only for their partners and their friends. So I do believe that the real tokenization that will create disruption and new stuff that we cannot even think about it will happen on public blockchains where permissionless innovation will flourish. So
Ethereum coded.
Ethereum coded indeed. Carlos,
more than just an accounting software.
Carlos Domingo, we will let you go, brother. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks for letting me join for even 5 minutes.
With
Congratulations. And
hey, Carlos.
I'll join
Thanks for joining, man.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you next time, Carlos. Thanks, man.
I love that.
Just a little, jump in there and then just.
I was like, I got hit up by a friend. I was like, yo, this is so random. Why are you talking with the CEO of StarkTember? I'm like, dude,
that guy's working with BlackRock.
I'm like, dude, the guy's like BlackRock and Morgan Stanley's fucking blockchain. I'm here like, yo, so this market was a lightsaber,
Yeah, this guy pulls the Darth Vader lightsaber RWA.
That's the RWA that we're talking about.
That shit was hilarious, bro. God. He's like, okay.
That's not a T-bill.
Well, like the thing that actually worked though is that like you were saying that you like to own the watch, you like to own the asset, and he totally agrees with that.
It's the same principle.
It's the same concept, just on a grander scale,
right?
Yes, exactly.
Not just prices.
Securitize's whole thing is like, look, we want to have the actual asset be in custody in some form, be natively issued, not these wrapper versions and all these derivatives.
Yeah, I don't like that stuff. I'm not too convinced about that side of the RWA narrative. Like I've talked to a lot of watch companies that have tried to bring it on. I was in Geneva with like one of the biggest the company that owns like one of the Cartier and all these brands, right? And they flew me out there so we could have a conversation about like how do they want to approach like the watch industry for crypto, like what's in the brain and the head of like the next wave and generation of buyers, because that's us, right? They can't wrap their heads around the RWA side, and I can't either. And I'm like, technically, I should be able to. Right?
Yeah, it's I guess super fugazi when it's like, okay, we have $1 billion in like equities or whatever in our balance sheet. We want to do tokenization because it's like the hot meta. So boom, we just write on paper that now we have a tokenized version. Now we have $2 billion on our balance sheet, but it's like, wait, there's still just $1 billion.
Oh, there's only 1
here.
billion. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So that's where it gets kind of hairy, and it's like, okay, well, we have to actually have native issuance, or you got to make it clear like this is just a digital representation. It's actually it's going to settle with the same assets that you have off chain.
Yeah. For coming back to our prediction markets conversation, that was just a big intro.
I love it.
It's super random. So we've been doing a lot more thinking about like two-way interactions with the audience, right? Like Carlos comes on and gives this take, right? He's doing this debate at the RWA summit next week, perps versus tokenization, whatever it is. Now it's obviously we have an Oracle problem here where we don't really know who's going to win. There's not going to be a winner, but like there's got to be a way that we can get our guests to come on the show, have a take, have a claim, set up a prediction market for it, get our audience to be able to bet or gamble or bet or predict alongside us, and basically create this kind of shared value loop where we can create this economic relationship with our audience. How do you think the evolution of creators and prediction markets is going to unfold when it comes to like creating these deeper ties other than just like the typical creator fan relationship?
I mean, this is the end goal, right? Like to be able to say, okay, let's make a call right now with your guest. Let's say with me, let's be able to spin off a market, get the market out, get some volume on it, and get the right resolution. And then there's an end goal. The problem is, I'll tell you first, like the hurdles, right? First and foremost, not every market is going to have enough liquidity to do that. You'd have to like seed liquidity for a lot of these markets. And we know that's the biggest problem for most prediction markets, right? It was a problem for us. It's becoming less of one right now, but it's going to be a problem for 99% of them. And that's why 99% of them are not going to be around in a year from now. That's just the truth, right? Second hurdle is resolution. You've just talked about oracles, right? I know Polymarket's ran into their own issues with UMA, right? Which is probably why like 𝘗𝘃's still centralized, right? It's all done internally, which is why we started off as centralized. We're developing our own oracles in-house, working with some great tech partners, etc. That'll all come. But how do you set the resolution, right? Is it you guys that's gonna set the resolution to, let's say I make a call on this like Darth Vader thing, right? Whatever. I guess it's easier to set the resolution, but on a random call that we're making, like Bitcoin is gonna be at that price by then, or the roll-up's going to get that many amount of gas by that time, or views and stuff. Like it's extremely hard to find resolution source. So we have to agree to a resolution source that's very strict, because you can't fuck with the resolution source, right? Once it's there, once it's stamped, once it's in the market, you can't go and make an amendment, right? Because you're playing with people's money. So that's where it becomes very tricky. Now, live markets on screen, blah, blah, blah. That's not that hard. We've built a tool for that. We can already almost bring it up. Or creator markets where it's like, you guys tell us in advance, like there's ways to that. Like you guys call us in advance, like, yo, today we have Carlos coming on, and this is the skew of guests that we have coming on. That's the broad topics. Here's 5 markets that we believe will be pertinent to what we're going to talk about. Okay, cool. I'll have to say Myriad, right? Myriad team goes back. Let's see where 𝘗𝘃, Polymarket, whatever. But obviously the bigger ones are less prone to do something like that. But like someone like us will go in, we're like, okay, let's make 5 markets that actually fit what Robbie and Andy are going to talk about today, and then you have them ready in advance. You guys are pushing them to your markets, to your audience. They're able to predict live on air, etc. Leave it open for X amount of time, and then that's resolved in a timely fashion, blah blah, and done right. And then there's a percentage of let's say that goes back to the creator. So that's the way we're approaching it right now. It's like, hey, like Easy and Clemente, we're doing a 30-day challenge for trading. So then Easy's like, yo, and Clemente, can Myriad launch a market for that? Like, okay, fuck it, let's go. So we did a market for it, and people were able to like take.
Dude, that's what I'm talking about, man. Those like, fast crowdsourced markets that like
you have to.
There's those 3 problems that you mentioned, but like, right now Polymarket's slow to do. They have very strict rules because they use UMA and they have Oracle. 𝘗𝘃, I think, is getting to the point where they can do a bit faster. But these like dude, doesn't matter if there's $500 of volume on the market in the first week because it's a new thing, dude. I don't care. like it's going to be $5,000 at some point, and it's going to be $50,000 at some point. Like it's just a matter of time. But I think that like innovation flywheel is what we're trying to achieve with, at least with like how we're thinking about it. And I imagine a lot of other creators will kind of also be wanting to entertain you guys.
That's the way. I mean, I started off like you, right? I'm still a creator. I still have my morning show every day, right? And so this is exactly why we did prediction markets, because we have so many creators. Like we work with Mando, Ovi, 𝘂𝘓𝘦𝘐𝑬𝑅, Tyler, and myself, like et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're able to like just push these markets, and we're using our own platforms to do so, right? We even launched a prediction market show, blah, blah, on Thursday. But the thing is, like, we're able to now create markets around what we believe we're going to talk about and then push volume to them, right? Because it's pertinent to our crowd. Same thing for Decrypt. Like if you go to Decrypt Media, there's markets in line on every single article. We've built the SDK where, like, as you're reading an article on Decrypt Media, you're able to predict natively within the Decrypt platform.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah, we've done that with CoinDesk as well. So it's not just for us. Like our goal, or like the way we see our growth is by doing that, right? This is why you're going to compete with the $10 billion poly market or the $5 billion Kalshi, right? These numbers just dropped like 2 hours ago. It's like, wow, it's crazy. But at the end of the day, like, this is how I think we're going to be able to like kind of not play catch up, but like innovate in a way. That
$10 billion term sheet, poly market, right? 10 billion.
Yeah, they did. That just came out today.
With $3 billion in cash, something
Yep.
it came out.
So I put out a tweet that was like, I think prediction markets can get as big as Binance in terms of volume, whereas people are thinking of them as like just a prediction market. I'm thinking of them as more of just like an obfuscated perps platform, or an obfuscated kind of like trading platform. What is your scale of TAM here for Myriad, for Polymarket, Kalshi? Let's say like top 3, top 4 markets end up with 80% of the volume. What is that volume? What is that daily, numbers? Like, is there any kind of estimates that you would have for us over like a 5-10 year horizon, maybe? I'm not saying like exactly perfect, but like, are we talking like trillions settled every month? Are we talking like a billion a day? Like, what
are meme coins doing right now? Like Pump funded 18 billion in 30 days?
Yeah.
Something like that in volume. Like, like it's impossible that prediction markets don't start like beating that by a mile. Right?
Wow.
Because the thing is, people don't understand. Prediction market is not a meta. Meta is just like a word.
That's a meme.
Word that's like CT uses, and I use it sometimes. So guilty but like it's childish. Prediction market is an industry.
Okay.
I mean, it's a serious growth industry. It's not a meta. It's like a prediction market and the next big thing. Prediction markets have existed for like 100 years, bro.
Yeah.
The 2 first apps on Ethereum were prediction markets.
Augur. Shout out Augur.
They're making a comeback too, right? But like people don't realize just how deeply rooted crypto is with prediction markets. So like you're telling me this, like prediction markets going to be as big as the NASDAQ, bro.
Yeah.
Like Binance, what? Like it's just like going to be bigger, right? It's going to make as much money as Binance, if not more. Binance are going to integrate prediction markets. It's just going to like just start creeping up and look. People would never expect today that poly market would have received a term sheet for $10 billion. To me, I'm just like, okay, cool. Like that's normal. But like, everyone's shook, right? Of course, it's cool. I'm euphoric as a founder in the space because the TAM now is growing. Like the ceiling keeps raising, right? Like the floor price of these of these markets just keeps going high and high, right? But I don't want to make a call for 5 years, but this is a multi-trillion-dollar industry.
We're not going to put you in that position where you have to make those predictions, but you're absolutely correct, because prediction markets are part of the derivatives market. And so they're going to make up, derivatives are like multiple trillions of dollars of business. And I think one thing that we had someone, I think it was AJ that came on earlier, and he said basically this is not just growing market share of an existing derivatives sector, it's actually creating an entirely new asset class because of the ability to create more outcomes that were previously not speculated on. Now we have price discovery for those things that were never even valuable before because you couldn't really make them tangible. Now prediction markets make them tangible, and they let you discover price on them. And they're already part of one of the most expansive in general industries that is out there right now, known to man. So I think absolutely we're talking trillions, not billions. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just like thinking like, how do you even price the financialization of the most prolific asset, which is information?
Mm-hmm.
What price do you put on information, which is even starting to be tradable? Like, look at this, like credit default swaps, right? That's a $5 trillion a year industry. You're telling me prediction markets are not going to top that? Like, I'm not even It's not like 𝘭𝘆𝘵 2021 NFTs, Moonboy, or like a meme coin. Like this is not that. Like I'm literally in the arena, right?
I'm
like,
so dead, dude.
I'm talking to all these like Carlos dudes all day long outside of the fucking Twitter spaces and stuff. Like you're starting to see it. Like prediction markets are literally going to be the biggest thing. Like, this is going to outpace securities.
Wow.
I'd love to get a take from you on something that's adjacent to prediction markets, which is this entire creator streamer token meta, right?
Yeah.
Like Pump's got Project Ascend. They're doing great. I mean, you have revenue buybacks. The token is doing tremendously.
Dude,
And
ripping.
absolutely ripping as a result of this new announcement. And very rarely do you see an announcement correlate with the type of movement that you see in the token chart. A lot of times it's just macro based, but in this case, it's actually working. And so I'm curious from your perspective. Obviously, we have meme coins, but this is a new meta to use your meme.
Bruh.
How sustainable are creator token markets? What do you think is the value proposition? Do you think these things rip day one, you get a bunch of creator fees, and then volume dwindles out over time? Or how can you make these sustainable? Generally, what is the right way to think about the creator tokens?
Dude, how many times have we tried to tokenize like people over the last, like, do you remember BitClout? I love that shit.
Oh my God.
I was like one of the first
That's
time
OG.
users. Like it was so early on.
Tech.
People were calling everyone on BitClout scammers. It's like, dude, I'm just trying a new thing. Do you remember there was another one? I forgot which one. So obviously remember FriendTech. Obviously now you're seeing a lot of different ones. I'm not seeing the same thing because I'm a huge fan of Pump Fund. Right? I bull post Pump Fund. I support Pump Fund. I love what they're doing. But like I just don't see it as much because then like what the person's gonna have to continuously stream for its token to be worth something. But then it's just like a meme, right? Some memes are worth a lot. They get the attention. Like the 𝘗𝘳𝘵𝗦 was all over like Instagram for a moment, and all of a sudden nobody's talking about it. So it's tough because also creators are a dime a dozen, guys. I've been in the creator game for like 16 years. I started when I was 18 years old. I'm 31 now. But I started my first like, blog when I was like 14 years old on Tumblr. So I've been in this like creator economy my entire life, as long as I can remember. And I've seen creators come and go back then on Instagram, and I've seen creators come and go since 2021 in this space, right? Founded Rug Radio, we're one of the largest creator networks. How many people are still here from 2021 creating content? Almost none, right? But out of all the ones that are here, how many are relevant? And I don't mean this in any like arrogant way. Like how many creators are relevant today, and how long can they keep this relevance going, right? We've been hosting the show for 4 years now. We're still there. You guys been doing this for a long time. You're still there. But like once you're not there, like, or once I'm not there, why would my token be worth anything? So like there's like these creator tokens just have an expiration date. So in that sense, they're not much better than like meme coins, right? And by the way, if I'm gonna trade creator tokens, I'd rather just own Pump.
Yeah. 100%. You better just own the casino. And I mean, the thing is, a lot of these on the first day, you're gonna end up making a ton of cash because you get this launch, really get this big pump on the launch, and you get all this volume. But the volume from there most likely is going to be about negative 90%, negative 95% per day, just kind of like perpetually, because it's just, there's never going to be a time when you make more creator fees than probably on launch, unless you're one of the ones that I do think, even though I completely agree with you, and I don't think we're going to do it because I don't think it's going to make sense for us, and I don't think it's going to make sense for you. There's going to be a creator who runs one to like multiple hundreds of mils.
I mean,
100%
if Onsome were to do it,
it would hit 100 mil. It would get close.
I mean, his cat hit 100 mil, right?
That was 2024, but like, I feel you though.
I know, but like it would run. I just wonder, like, see, this is when like you got to get like, I think Pump Fund's gonna start getting the big boys onto their platform and see what happens. It's just like whenever it's a token tied to a person, it never ends well. It has nothing to do with the person's intentions. They could be the nicest, kindest person on earth. Like I'm not like I'm not talking about like Ruggy. I'm saying like it just never ends well. And then people have this like weird, it's like really Black Mirror-esque, right?
It is.
There's like this weird value that they attribute to you. We had the conversations, right? Like I think it was Mando was like, yo guys, are we launching a FOMO hour token on Pump Fund? And I was like, dude, and then Tyler, and then me. I'm like, dude, like
I'm glad we weren't the only ones, dude.
We got 𝘵𝑒𝑚𝑒𝑟𝑒𝑎 TG coming right now. Like we can't be focused on the fucking FOMO hour token. You know what I mean? So it's like definitely not for now. And it's like, no matter how much money they give out to creators, which hey, maybe the rewards become 120 million, not 12 million. Now we're talking, right? So I think everybody at some point will have a price and the value where they're willing to do it. But I'm always scared of like what happens to to the quality of the content too, right? With that.
I completely agree. And then it's not a winning battle for the creator.
Yeah.
I do think, just to close it off, there's going to be a fat airdrop for streamers on Pump that would probably, it's probably going to be 6 figures if you're doing a good job, and maybe 7. So like that is another thing that I think is reasonably likely, just based on they haven't even done an airdrop yet, and the token's already at like 6 bill. So that's something to consider. Yeah.
It's you can't stream on Pump without launching the token, right? It's mandatory.
Yep. Same with Zora and all that. Last thing for you, Farouk, I got a flight to catch. We've been on a marathon here. Dude, you interviewed Trump, man.
Yeah.
What the hell is that like? Like how was that, man? Tell us, like, give us the Trump story. How'd that happen? What was the best line in the interview? Where can we find it?
I mean, dude, it was surreal, right? Because it was the day after the second assassination attempt. So it was September 16th, almost a year ago. So September 15th, 2024. I was under a tent with the Secret Service getting checked at Mar-a-Lago. I literally had like one of those German shepherds up my balls. And then they go, sir, like, you got to step aside. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Then I step aside. It was raining. So we're in the car waiting for half an hour, 40 minutes. We got a call. Homeboy's like, yo, don't say anything, but something's happening to the president. But don't tweet, because if you tweet, it's going to, everybody's going to know. I'm like, okay, I see nothing. The next thing you know, I got Walter Bloomberg, Dow to One, DB. Everyone's like, second assassination on President Trump at the golf course. I'm right there. Like, the golf course is like right next to Mar-a-Lago, right? And then I was like, shit, what happens? Like, so I go to a hotel next door. I wait. Is the interview going to go on? And then I get a message at night saying show goes on. The president wants to keep the interview on. So how it happened is that I was in August. I was in Japan for WebEx. I'm with the homies, drinking at a local bar in Ginza. And I get a call from a friend. Like, yo, these guys, they work with President Trump. They're about to launch a project, which now is Word Liberty 5, so you guys know it very well. They need someone for Twitter Spaces. You're the guy. Like, you're the Twitter Spaces guy. It's got to be you. I'm like, okay. I get on the call with them. They're like, we know you. I've known the guys for a really long time through my other industry, and like, I've been in the game for a long time. And it's like, we love what you do. We love FOMO Hour, Rug Radio. Would you like to help us with the production? I'm like, I'm down to help you with the production, but can I host a thing? And at the time, they were thinking like Tucker Carlson, and I'm like way bigger. Like, I'm not relevant, okay? Outside of that, like, I'm just me in the space, right?
Yo, that's crazy.
They're like, yo, let me get back to you. 30 minutes later, yeah, you can do the Trump interview. I'm like, holy shit! So I go back to the phone, like, guys, we're doing a Trump interview. When is it? In 2 weeks. So I'm in Japan. I had to go celebrate my 30th birthday in London on September 7th.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. 7 days later, I'm on my flight tomorrow. I go on a solo mission. I hired 15-person camera crew that we had in Miami that we've done some work with before. And this is how it happened. Like, they called me up, which we pulled up, we did the interview, and it was crazy because the assassination attempt happened, and then Hannity from Fox wanted to be the first to interview President Trump after that. Because, dude, the whole world, the most powerful man on earth, the most influential human being on earth, and at the time the most popular. Right, he was like about to become president, second attempt on his life. So you can think all the eyes are on him, and here I am just shitting myself. And Henry didn't get it. It was us, and so here I am. Like, the show's about to start. I pressed play on Twitter Spaces. By the way, it was the most listened to live Twitter Space in the history of Twitter. Right, it was like 2.6 million concurrent, and we know that because Elon sent the stats after to his team. Right, and so I press start. So when you press start on Twitter Space, guys, there's no going back. There's already 1 million people. Everyone's on me, like, yo, get me on. So I had to get Barron up on stage. I was on the phone with Barron 30 minutes before, trying to help him out with Twitter Spaces. I have
what's Barron like?
Dude, it was super cool, right? But I was just on the phone with him to help him out make a space. He didn't have an X account. So like, I'm helping Eric and Don Jr. are next to me because I interviewed every single Trump in one night, right? That's what people realized was nuts. And then security comes, they're like, yo, Farouk? And I'm like, yeah, they want to meet you right now. And I'm like, no, I can't. Like, the Twitter Spaces started. We can't do it. Like, no, they want to see you. I'm like, oh, fuck. And so I go to the other room. It's just President Trump. It's like 6'5". I'm like 5'7", 5'8". I'm like not that big. And then I look up to him, and then he looks at me. He's like, young man, huh? And I'm like, yeah, I just turned 30 years old last week. And he goes, we're going to have a lot of fun. Bam, shakes my hand with like firm. And then we pull up to the thing. And that's at that point when he shook my hand, all my stress, and I was stressed. I got the Oura-ring. I can tell you, my receptors that day were insane. Like, insane. And so I pull up to the thing, and then just cooked the interview for 35 minutes. Then after that, you know, the whole Word Liberty Fight team, blah, blah. Shout out to them, Zach Chase and that whole team, the Wyckoffs, like they were the ones who really helped me make this happen. But it was surreal. Contrary to popular belief, he was super cool, super kind, very supportive of me. I think he pulled, I mean, he's an expert, right? He saw I was stressed out because this was the biggest gig of my life. To this date still is, probably always will be. And it was super cool, dude. So that's how it happened. That's how
Dude, that's legendary.
to this
That's
day, I think
just-
the only crypto interview he's given. So
It's
pretty
insane
cool.
lore.
Yeah.
Farouk, Sarmad, prediction markets, Trump creators. We really appreciate your time, boss man. And we'll definitely need to chat more about this combination and prediction markets and media,
Well,
brother.
We got you.
All right, brother. Well,
You're the man.
best of luck in the TG, man. I know it's going to be hectic for you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, brother.
Cheers,
Thank you.
man.
We'll see you next time.
All right, Rob. That'll do it for us. I got a flight to catch. What a stream. That was pretty. That was
It's the
pretty.
next
That was a
chapter
vibe.
of the roll up. You guys,
Yeah, man.
you just got a taste. That's
was
just a taste.
That was a vibe, dude. That was.
All right.
That was. Yeah.
Yep. We'll see you next time. Let's close it
Thank
off.
you guys. Much love.
Andy,
See you next
don't
week.
miss your flight. See you next
Peace.
time, guys.